is almost here. But before we get there, I think it's about time that we finish up the full lineup of one of our regional finals. Eyes to Japan, the land of the rising sun. Konnichiwa, irasai to the Intel World Open. It's Friday, it's Japan, and we are living life right now. Welcome, welcome. My name is James C. Ireleague Kirk. I'm going to be joined today, as I am for the entire week, by Corey, Digital Bacon Dyer. And please, can we get a camera on this man? Get a camera on this man. Just if you want Japanese Rocket League, if you want fantastic analysis, if you want hype, this is your dude.
I can remember all the way back to the very first APL when one NE was starting on out. Big shout out to Tasty Tea, of course, in the Japanese region. It's for starting this up, for giving Asia its beginnings. And of course, now we're getting to the point where everyone's like, they deserve to be on the same stage. And we get to see 4 teams today that all deserve to be facing off against the 3 that have already qualified from mainland Asia.
That's right, that's right. Now, if you have just joined us on the Intel World Open broadcast, then first of all, where have you been this entire time? Second of all, don't worry too much. We got you covered.
Better late than never. That's what I always say here. And I mean, you're coming into a very exciting day, Ireleague, because we have got 3 close qualifiers that are going to be absolutely stacked, aren't they?
How do the close qualifiers work? Let's check it out.
The Intel World Open is fully underway, and the winning teams from the Open qualifiers in each region have been locked in. Let's take a look at what's in store for the next phase, the closed qualifiers and the regional finals. Taking place from June 21st to 27th, the winning teams from the Open qualifiers advance to one of 21 regional closed qualifier tournaments to compete in a double elimination best-of-5 bracket. Each bracket consists of the 4 teams, with the finalists from each closed qualifier advancing to the final stage of the Intel World Open. The regional finals are going down on July 11th to 14th and are broken up into 4 regions, where the 8 best teams from each country or territory will compete once more in a best-of-5 double elimination bracket for the chance to become the first ever Intel World Open champions. For further information, brackets, and more, head over to intelworldopen.gg.
Ooga Booga and 3 Rats from Singapore, Uns from Malaysia. Those are the 3 teams. At 1 team from the 4 teams that we're going to see today. This is all funneling in to that Asia mainland regional. Bacon, I think it's fair to say, as we take a little look at the bracket, we do have a clear favourite today. Much like in the Middle Eastern region, everyone is going to be focused in on Tokyo Verdy, but certainly just like the Middle Eastern region yesterday, there is plenty of potential for the upset.
That's it. Then we're looking, of course, to Bumpy Bumpy and Doggo as the sort of like usurpers really here. Safers, whilst making their way through as a top 14, coming in from those open qualifiers to those closed qualifiers, are still a growing team. This is a team where I did not see them 2 years ago, so they're very young still, whereas the other 3 teams all have players that have been here since the start, that have casted for years and years. Ireleague, I'm looking probably towards Bumpy Pumpy for the best sort of usurper there, but I'm going to give a shout out to Doggo. These lads are incredible players as well, and I mean, when you think of Japan, you're basically thinking of Realize. That's what Tokyo Verdy is. It's Realize's team to the rest of the world. But there are so many great players in the entirety of Japan that Today, we're going to be able to show them to you, and you're going to be going away with so many new names to add to the back of your mind, and no longer is it just going to be realized for an entire region.
So we have that Verdi-Zephyrs match as our first one on stream. So let's actually take a little look at the other two teams on that lower side of the upper bracket. Let's look at Bumpy Pumpy first of all. So you will know this team under a different name. They've actually recently been dropped and also picked up by an org, but there's more to this actually. So you might know them from the 3-0 show match on the RLCS-X over the last couple of weeks or so. That was a 3-0 towards Tokyo Verdi, and so that's quite a convincing victory for Tokyo Verdi. But here's the thing, Bumpy Pumpy, with that new org that they've been picked up on, that's with Maikan, not Xiaolon. And actually Xiaolon, worth mentioning, another one of our older players, 25 years old. It's not that, it's younger than me, right? But at the same time, it's still old in terms of Rocket League. But so strange not to be running Maikan for this. He's actually on Doggo.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Like you were talking about, Shalon, he's like the Grandmaster Wizard of Japan. He is the lad who brought up the entire rest of the scene and taught them how to play Rocket League. He was on the top team at the time, way back at the beginnings, alongside Realize and a player, unfortunately not playing today, but Lemonade Lime, shout out to him. I'm sure a lot of the Japanese region remember that man. And not only being on the biggest team, but then like coaching 3-4 other teams to get them up to that level. Japan knew from the start that it's not going to be just one single team that rules a region. It's going to have to be an entire gaggle of geese, an entire group of players, not just one, not just two, but unfortunately it's always that realized problem where it's just that one player, because he pops off and puts great clips on out there. That's how everyone's got known. And of course, then we've also got the stories of him going down to OC, playing amongst those teams is good enough. But the rest of the Japanese region, where Rocket League isn't a full-time job there, where it does not have the infrastructure, you've got some great tournaments going on and some prize money being thrown around, but it does not have the infrastructure to go professional. So these guys are university students working full-time, but then honing their craft, their hobby, their passion in Rocket League, and it is just really starting to pay off now, isn't it?
Here's them. We've shouted out APL. We're also going to give a shout out to our brothers over in Japan on twitch.tv/ESL_Japan. So, I mean, listen, if you can understand us, that's great. I'm guessing if you're a Japanese guy here, you might not necessarily be understanding what we're saying, but if you actually want to experience that live Japanese commentary, maybe have both streams up at the same time, dip and dive into both. It's certainly it's an exciting experience for me to hear different languages, how hyped they get over their own people.
That's it. The Japanese commentary is insanely fun to listen to. Like, I don't understand a single word of it, but the energy those guys have. And enough shout out to Koken as well from the region, who's been helping broadcasting for so long. It's easy to get English commentary because, you know, the world over, but the Japanese region likes to harbor his own talent, and so he's been trying to big that up, and quite often a one-man army. So a shout out to Koken once again for all the work he's done for the Asian region. And I can remember going back to DreamHack Montreal, where he was coming in as the coach to 1NE. At the time, of course, it was Realize, Shalon, and Misty from the Malaysian team. So, of course, we've got a little cross-regional going on there.
We do indeed, and actually, great segue as we head into our analysis of the first match. Of course, Tokyo Verdi, we'll pick them up in just a little bit, but let's look at Zephyrs. For me, at least, the least favorite going into this, and for good reason as well. I think they've lost 3-1 to Bumpy Pumpy in the APL Japanese National, which of course is exclusively Japanese team. They finished 5th, 6th there, so immediately you can get an idea of where they place in their own region. But then we've also got the APL Kickoff Asia, which is basically the last real chance to look at the teams from all across the region in one tournament, and they finished 7th, 8th there. And funnily enough, their team was knocked out by 1NE, featuring Misty from Malaysia. So a real chip on the shoulder there. But if they want the rematch, they're gonna have to beat Tokyo Verdi. They're gonna have to make it to the grand final, and they're gonna have to win, which for me at least, Bacon, is a long shot from here.
We draw a lot of comparisons to Middle East from yesterday.
Yeah.
Again, one team with all the backing, one team with all the names on the roster. You got 3 usurpers, and well, yesterday, whilst it didn't happen, it was blooming close with Falcons nearly taking down Samrock Gaming. We look to today and we think Tokyo Verde, it might not all be sunshine, rainbows. There could be a rainstorm on the way.
Well, the difference with Tokyo Verde, of course, to Sandrock Gaming is that whereas Sandrock Gaming has had those 3 players stuck together for a good year plus at this point, Tokyo Verde has actually been a little bit more suspect to change, of course. They've gone through different iterations as well, like Tokyo Ixa, for example, which featured Kana. He's not on the roster anymore. Maru is, but it's actually one of the mainstays, Bacon, that you want to highlight in Ten Hao.
Yeah, Ten Hao has been around for ages there, and Tenu, like, it's just always a case of, I love his style of Rocket League. Like, it's always a bit of a weird thing to say, because Rocket League's Rocket League. You know, you drive around the pitch, you hit the ball, but just the way he actively goes from boost to ball to rotate around, I don't know, it's got like, dare I say it, a unique charm to it.
Yeah.
When he's on the pitch, you just can't help but smile and just see Rocket League art in motion. So definitely he's my player to watch for today here, RLE. Keep an eye on Ten Hao.
Of course, not just winners of the RLCSX show match, but winners of the APL Japanese National. So in all ideas, in all phases and concepts of life, this team should be the favorite going through, and I think it is now time, Bacon, to focus in on that star player, on Realize. Just how good is he? Can we compare him to anyone from EU, NA? Let's try and drop some comparisons.
Straight up, Realize again, the story before, unfortunately, the world pandemic hit, was that he was planning to move down to OC to join, and was actively in online tournaments from Japan playing amongst the gaming gamers. Now, we all know that squads have gone on. It's sort of been like a mainstay, but of course, the squad mixing up a little bit. But he would have gone down, and I kid you not, been a top 6 team within OC. That's one man coming from a region that had no top tier competition, going to an already established for many years area in OC and already hitting hard. I mean, we can't say enough. When you're looking to that Tokyo Verde roster, Realize is always going to be catchy, right? Purely with all the flip resets, the aerial goals, and just dramatics, theoretics that are going on. It's incredible from him.
Of course, I think in terms of play style, I think it's fair to say, if you think what Samrock is capable of, this is very much where we see Realize starting out as a freestyler, being picked up by content creation teams, and very much believing in his own abilities. But much like Samrock, actually, it's fair to say that in the grand scheme of things, Bacon, there is no place for flashiness when you've got to get the job done. And although I think in this particular region, in this particular close qualifier, he's probably going to get away with it. I think we're going to see some fantastic plays from him today. Once it gets to that regional final, I'm really excited to see what Realize is like being tested by others abroad.
So when you look at Japan as well, a lot of these players have played with each other. Maybe not Safers, but they're the young guns coming on through, trying to find their own path, you know, make their own route to the destination that everyone wants to get to at the end of the day, the grand finals, and then of course to the regional finals. But when you look at the other teams, when you go into Old Picks, you're looking at Burn, Meto, battling that, Realize has played with them all. Yep. And they have all played with him. They know him. They know his dodgy little tricks inside and out. They know what to expect. So, as commentators, as analysts, as hosts, we look at this and go, Realize has crosshairs on his back. He is the biggest target. If anyone's going to get demoed on the pitch, it's Realize, because on the opposite end, on Realize's team, he's the one that's always getting set up. So he's an easy target for anyone. Just come in, just go remove him, get him off that pitch, make him have a 3-second reset.
It's our first match of the day then. Tokyo Verde versus Zephyrs. Sa Hajimayo, Stumpy and Tylacto.
Thank you guys, it's great to be here in Japan, really the shining star of the Asian region in recent years. And of course, I'm here not with Craftman, but with you, of course, Stumpy Goblin. Craftman will be back on the French closed qualifier later, but it's great that we've got you here, Stumpy, mainly because we talked the desk, irony, about there being a Japanese broadcast, and obviously you're fluent in Japanese, right?
I wouldn't like to show off. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't like to show off and really upstage those guys. guys, so I'll keep it in English for now. At least we'll see where we go with the show. But I'm really excited to dive into Japan. They have been such a fantastic mainstay in Rocket League, despite never having the limelight, and that's something that I think shows off the ambition of the region as a whole. The fact that recently they had the chance to show off in that show match during the RLCS to over 100,000 people must be inspiring, finally getting their chance. And Tokyo Verdy versus Zephyrs is going to be a series that I think a lot of people will have their eyes on, if not just to see how on fire Tokyo Verdy are at the moment.
Exactly. We talk about shining stars, and really the star of the region has been realised, as already highlighted, as really a sort of water tester of a first game to see how well they can really handle the nerves. But you talk about that show match, they really handled those nerves well. In fact, Bumpy are the ones who I have worries about handling that sort of pressure. But as we head in, it's immediately taken less than 30 seconds, and Tenhao just sinks that one in nicely.
I love that it's an immediate team play as well between Realize and Tenhao. The two biggest players in this region, with Realize being the man at the top of the mountain in that regard. He has been someone that, even if you don't know Japanese Rocket League, and I won't pretend like I'm one of the people that is fully embedded in the scene, I know Digital Bacon, despite the fact I really wish I was most days. It is somebody that everyone is fully aware of. He has been the Japanese Rocket League man, but now look at the pressure that Zephyrs are putting on. But that needs to be a goal, I feel, with a chance where you can send it long and then get a couple of chances to shoot it on target. You're not going to let them go too easily.
Especially in an occasion like this, which Zephyrs aren't as familiar with these huge stakes. I'm so happy for them to have got through to this closed qualifier stage, but you look back at the APL Nationals and they didn't manage to get to the playoff stage. So whether they feel like they've just got nothing to lose at this point, or whether they really sort of crumble, is going to be interesting to see, because I feel like the longer they go without a goal, the tougher it could be on their mindset, especially if they keep on conceding them.
Tenhao is a proper little nuisance, isn't he? He just parked in front of Lil Plasma, waited there
to get another one.
Yeah, tried to then get another bump on his way out, but instead it meant that Mario could just have it below the final defender. That was cruel from Tenhao. He doesn't need to be doing that. He can style on them in other ways. But Tokyo Verdy already establishing a 2-goal lead, and it could well be 2-1, which is much more manageable. It's a shame that Zephyrs couldn't quite finish their chance when they had it. But this is where Realize comes into his own, already flip resetting to get over the top of the defense. And I heard Arik earlier saying that he started his roots in Rocket League as a freestyler, and a lot of people will put that down. A lot of people will say, well, that's silly, that's superfluous, you don't need that. But his transition to a competitive game has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and really, when there's just a lack of competition, I mean, if not for APL, there'd be hardly none. In Asia, of course, you can't really blame him. And in terms of publicity and getting himself onto the world stage, he's been really successful that as well. And I just want to highlight Maru, though, because he's the most new member on this roster, of course. He's only been playing with them for a few months, having played them in the finals of the APL Nationals. Of course, he was on the team that ended up coming second, and you can tell the Tokyo Verdy, they saw that and were just like, yeah, we'll have some of that. And Tenhao is going to have some of that double touch, and already before halftime, Stumpy, it's 3.
I love the Champ 3 double touch, where there's no way he expected that to go as well as it ended up going. But they work. They all count as 1. A dual flip reset, 1. A Champ 3 double touch, that's 1 as well. Tenhao getting another goal to his name. And with 3 goals, Zephyrs aren't looking to be in the best spirits, but chances for Arch to score just shoots wide though.
That's so painful to watch, isn't it? He just caught around at the wrong angle, sort of snatched at it a little bit. It's just a difficult situation. No fortune coming on in him, like the same way as the Champ 3 double touch, of course. Are you familiar with the Champ 3 double touch?
I'm familiar nowadays, mate, with the Grand Champ 1 double touch. Oh. That's right, I ranked up.
That's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe that. That's a terrible mistake for myself. My deepest apologies.
How dare you.
I realise he's going to have to apologise. It's just taking the ball back and conserving possession, and that shot as well. Setter. I mean, he basically sneezed on the ball. It was kind of just didn't end up going anywhere.
It's been a few chances, I think, for Zephyrs to have been putting a lot more pressure on the net than they have been in the end. I think it comes down to nerves. You're playing the best in your region. We've seen this come across with so many teams in every other region. It's by no means just a Zephyrs only problem. Teams in Europe, when they play BDS, they get scared. Teams in NA, when they play NRG, or realistically, any of the top 3 or 4 teams, they will be getting scared. This is just Zayfers doing exactly that, but also game 1 is the time to turn it around and realise that you're at this level for a reason, right? You're representing your country, you're making yourself known on the world stage. Realise another goal, unfortunately as well, from that miss in net where it came out just slightly from the defender.
I was barreling around that box for a long time. All 3 Zayfers defenders just spectators at times. So tough with the limited boost they have. And yeah, it was like watching a slow motion car crash. You knew it was going to happen. I just couldn't do anything about it. And it will be 4. And it's a great start for Tokyo Verdy. But of course, when you look back to yesterday, and Les mentioned it as well, the Middle Eastern region, Sandrock also came in as overwhelming favourites. But my goodness, did they have a tough time over the course of the day. And I don't know if this entire first game is going to be representative of that.
I mean, those grand finals over in Middle East were unbelievable. Like, you were there for them, and you're a very, very lucky boy for being there for them. For anybody who missed it, how did those grand finals end up going down? And do you think we can see a repeat of that here in Japan?
It's unbelievable, the amount of games we got between Sandrock and the Falcons over the course of the day when they came into the winners finals, and Falcons, oh my goodness, all just want to go in with it. Woodwork is getting absolutely battered. Can we get the carpenter out? We need some repairs in the last 30 seconds between games 1 and 2. We get the Tokyo Verdy goal put back together. It's kind of like that, isn't it? They came into the upper bracket and 3-0 from the Falcons, and I still have mental whiplash from that series of just trying to deal with how that went down, and then for Sandrock to then have to fight back through the lowers was a real test of them. They hit the woodwork again, it's fine. You know, it's a given at this point for the Zayfers, and they had to bounce back from the lowers, which they did, by the way, except not in standard fashion. They went 2-0 down in that first grand final series, had to reverse sweep, and then of course in the final bracket resetted series ended up being a 3-1, all close games. Really was a roller coaster, and I think the Zayfers will be hoping for that, because we've certainly gone there down the dip of the roller coaster. They're kind of hoping it's going to go back up.
It'd be a shame if it's one of those ones that just plummets to earth and there is no going back up, and it's just like the fall, the drop. They're hoping that they got admission to the correct ride where it's got some loops going in there as well. But Tokyo Verdy, what a start for them. They're going to hope that it's not a repeat of Middle East. I mean, these two regions are compared frequently. You've got very mechanical players in both of them. They are both non-RLCS represented regions as well. They are ultimately underseen and underutilized regions, and there's also gigantic fanboys that love watching both of them. So Japan are going to be so proud seeing their guys on the world stage and realise, again, linking up with his teammates.
I mean, you say that, look at the quality of this shot. These setters trying to get up there, and there's not a big window for Realise to hit, and he hits that down in off the crossbar, a satisfying one. 10 seconds in, and you're right when we say we compare the two regions so much. And the main thing is because we just wish we got to see so much more of them.
Yeah, exactly. They're both regions that so many people will say, yes, they are brilliant. And they are. They're so fantastic, and yet they're not necessarily shown off in too many contexts. It's why the circuit system a couple of years ago was so amazing. It was open qualifier, just show up if you fancy as well, and you will just be able to compete with the biggest teams in the world. One Any managed to get a slot over there too, Realise slotting in his second goal. Tokyo Verdy looking very, very dominant in this series. We expected it. I'm now currently feeling that the Zayfers need a single goal. That's what I'm hoping for. No perfect sweep.
It's what we mentioned earlier in the first game, right? They need to get that first goal. Once the first one comes, it's so much easier to play better from there, but you feel like you're being embarrassed until you get that, and yet you'd be wrong for saying that a perfect sweep isn't possible here. It certainly is a possibility. I mean, that's the goal though. Maru, the pace he had, not one player but two, and you saw the last man, the third, I can't remember who it was now, was stood there just not really in position at the back post anymore, because he just didn't expect both his teammates to be beaten so convincingly.
I mean, the issue with Zayfers, I feel, is just it's obviously going to be quality across the board. You know, there are only so many incredible players in Japan, and they all just happen to be on about two teams. And so Zayfers and some other teams in the region, they're going to be made up of players that aren't necessarily at the same level. That's okay. That's what competition is. You're not always going to be as good as your opponents. The difference being, when you see these guys in the air and in space, as soon as I saw the ball in the air, I knew that was going to be a goal, because look at the positioning. Maru beats out convincingly, and no one's up. From Zapers, no one decides to challenge. Tenhau sees a needlessly good finish in the top right corner as the target that he fancies.
It really was.
And that was always going to happen, right?
It was just, it's the perfect way to put it, the needlessly good finish. It was like, he had the whole goal to pluck out, really. Pseta had already committed for one ball, was just sat there, just like a duck, just sat there, just like, yep, okay, I'm just going to have to watch this shot then, and it's 3. Very cool, very cool. And you talk about them being able to play against each other is spot on as well. We talked previously in seasons gone where, about OCE, they took that huge relishing chance to compete at World Championship because it was such a huge chance for their best teams to improve. And likewise for our second tier of I say second tier, really, Zapers have been competing at the top level for a while in Asia. It's just, you can see from this game that in terms of the quality, there is a defining factor, and they are just that slight level below. And that's why it's so good we have competition and pressure like this, so they can get these games, because they'll learn so much from them.
Yeah, it's by no means a dig on any of the other teams. It's just that Tokyo Verde is the best team in the region, and that's completely fine. Like, that just happens everywhere. Like, don't worry about it. It's just, that's the target. I think Digital Bacon was saying that puts a target on Realize's back. Puts a target on all of their backs, because it means that as soon as there's an opportunity to play with one of the other guys, we're sure that they bump into each other in ranked very often. As soon as there's a chance to play against them as well, it's a learning opportunity. Playing against these better teams is a way that you're going to improve the region, that you're going to make sure that you're going to be competitive as and when we can compete as a globe again, and that every team on the earth has an opportunity to play against each other. But Tokyo Verde in this second game again looking to shut out Zapers, and it's not for lack of opportunities either. I've seen a couple of 3v1s emerge when Tokyo Verde, they've been a little bit silly. They're messing around every now and then, like tackling each other and maybe just going for some silly flip resets, because they know how well they can just win this series. And realise,
goodness,
that flip reset, touching down below the crossbar, just encapsulating the brilliance that he displays.
Oh, can someone get me a bag, please? That was disgusting. It's so precise. The execution, I think the crazy thing about that is just how easy he made it look. Understandably, it doesn't change the course of the game, but a statement of a goal. If Zapers weren't already down about themselves, they're going to get a kick-off goal as well. They truly are. This is just complete pain. Like, it's French bread, it's Spain without the S. Like, I feel bad for Zapers. I think what makes it worse is that if they had a goal for every time they'd hit the frame of the Tokyo Verde goal, we'd probably have quite
even thrashing right now. It would be a thrashing. Zapers, they'd be 10-0 up. Like, I think the main problem for me is it's general defensive positioning. We're seeing a few times where they're just so slightly out of position, literally 1 or 2 car lengths. Pretty minuscule when you look at the grand scheme of the entire map. But that's the difference that's going to put Tokyo Verde with enough distance ahead of you to touch it down nicely. Lil Plasma a few times has been a couple of car lengths away from the ball, slower than Maru specifically. It seems to be those two going up against each other time and time again. But an opportunity starting to arise in the final dying moments of game number 2. Zapers, again, love to see them get 1 goal, because you do not want to be perfect swept coming into the biggest tournament that your region has seen.
Exactly, and going down to the lower bracket to then play, having been perfect swept, that's just tasty for your opposition who would be playing you. They'd be licking their chops, although, of course, I also know that you were playing against Tokyo Verde. That's going to be a lovely double touch down off the ground from Maru. Just look, the other car's going for it. He just doesn't even look at the explosion. He's a proper cool guy right there. He was waiting Realize to the ball.
Just puts his car in front of the camera as well as we see the ball go in. Like, hey, that was Maru, by the way. That's 10 goals unanswered for Tokyo Verde versus Zapers at this point. This is our first match as well. I bet anybody watching thinking, well, this region's a dud. No. No. This is just how good Tokyo Verde are. Zapers are one of the top teams in Japan. And this is how Tokyo Verde are playing against them. Realize again for the 7th.
Can you stop Realize? Like, there needs to be other goals to go around. Like, sharing is caring, and there's no care given under that, off the ceiling. They preset 7. Do they own goal for the Brazil, though?
No. No, Tokyo Verde, don't you dare.
BM.
That would be so much BM. And these guys, genuinely, they are not BM. Like, I've spoken to a load of guys who met Realize, especially over at DreamHack Montreal when that occurred. He is, by all accounts, one of the sweetest people that they've ever met, where he was just so polite and so nice and so caring and very conscientious that he was fanboying over every other pro there as well, where he was asking for pictures while competing, like against the next series, asking for pictures, being lovely. I'm happy that there was not the fourth Brazil going on. Zephyrs have got chances to score. They really do. We're not just trying to give them shots out of nowhere. They, in that game, had 5. They had 5 chances. That is not bad at all.
Exactly. The thing is that we need to make sure that the series stats after this do not show a 0% shot ratio, though. That would just not be fun. I mean, 10 shots just on Realize, though, at the other end of the field. And the problem is because they haven't got that belief in themselves from that goal, they also haven't knocked the stuffing out of Tokyo Verde, who are probably, I mean, goodness knows, they probably can play even better, but it looks like they couldn't be right now because of just not how dominating they're being, but also how clinical.
I expect we see 1 goal from Zephyrs. I think it'll also be the first goal, right? Because Tokyo Verde, they're going to keep messing about just a little bit, respectfully messing around, you know, just like mates having a play. And then Tokyo Verde will think, well, we can't have that. We can't have you scoring more than 1. Don't be silly. And then it's going to be an 11-1. That's my theory.
11-1.
Yeah.
Okay. I respect it. I respect it. I mean, Tenhau's just been clattered out in the air, though. But the thing is that it's so imminent of every goal that could potentially happen any given second, because consistently there are 2 or 3 races to the ball being won out by Tokyo Verde. They control so much of the boost. They are just so mechanically more sound. And with Zephyrs feeling the nerves clearly, I mean, they've been a team together for so long now, and it's great to see them make it to this point, but it looks like they've got a whole lot longer to go. They're going to make this close or even in their favour. Tokyo Verde just still controlling this game, despite it being a 0-0 scoreline. I mean, we can give credit. It is still 0-0. It's an improvement on last game, but that's some real copium. I'd much rather see it just be a 1-0 to Zephyrs, because that would really spice things up.
Tokyo Verde, I feel, they aren't just necessarily, like you said, controlling the boost, controlling the ball generally and where it goes. They're also just reading everything that Zephyrs do. Realise I've seen him get caught out twice this series, at which point he's then probably turned around. Oh, real. The dream is real. Zephyrs, they get a single goal. Time for Tokyo Verde's 11.
For this goal, now I'm a believer, as it flings at just 141 into the back of the net. You can say the 50 was fortunate, but the 50 right next to the wall is either going to go straight into mid or straight into the wall and then bounce into mid. So nothing fortunate about that. Credit for the pickup as well there. Nice from Arch to be able to put that one away. The question is, how long can they hold on to this lead?
Hopefully so long that they can be competitive in more aspects of the game. That came down to a pinch that was helped along by a Tokyo Verde player, and Zephyrs capitalised on it absolutely perfectly. They did the job that they needed to do. It was no problemo. But I'd like to see Zephyrs starting those opportunities themselves and making sure that they then get scary in every aspect of the game. Look at Tenhau again, though, having more possession, more time on the ball. Great save away by Passato.
Yeah, he did really well there with the patience just to not get baited out by the 2 players going before him who could beat him to that race, and ended up getting the huge block, and now he's got a tuck in the corner as well. In fact, it's really awkward. Haru does a great job of holding his ground. The composure to be on your goal line with the ball inches away from going in as an opponent is just barreling down towards you, to not even move, that takes some coconuts.
We're now past half-time, and Zephyrs have officially won a single half of Rocket League.
Nice.
That is fantastic. What a difference. What a genuine, actual difference. Game 1, 4-0. Game 2, 7-0. And now, Zephyrs are being competitive, as I wanted, in more aspects of the pitch. Look at them push on Tokyo Verde. They were not expecting this.
Yeah, they're sort of just like, hang on. What, guys? What is happening? We're meant to be winning. Okay. That's much better, as I'm late to see the replay here to explain how our poor goalkeeper ended up flying and pre-jumping up near the crossbar. Arch, are you good? He's ended up turned up on the backboard there. Unfortunately, when you turn backwards, often you're trying to be reactive and patient, but if you turn your back to your opponent, it's a huge sort of submissive play, and better opponents who notice that in time or even predict it are just so able to punish. And unfortunately their simple ground shot from that position just wasn't savable.
It was sent to the opposite bottom corner as well, so the hardest shot to save from where he was standing. Tokyo Verde though, back in it, as we always kind of presume that they would be, but still brilliant chances from Zafers to extend their lead and to save it out. It was a single misplay. That is how hard Tokyo Verde are going to be to capitalise against, but Zafers have done a fantastic job so far in this third match.
In terms of that conviction, just for going for the ball, as I say that, of course, 3 of them stand off and wait, but they've been challenging so much better and being more successful with that, and that sort of reassurance when they see themselves, that self-confidence is growing back, and it's all because of that first goal. And the later we get into this game 3, the more likely they are to maybe snatch a crucial one, and well, if they can get one game, that reassures that belief even more as we're getting late on. And it's going to have to be a good control from Lil Plasma, who ends up beating out the player again. We were not seeing this in the first game or two.
Tokyo Verde's playstyle is actually shockingly simple, I feel. The way that they play the ball is to each other almost every single time. When you see Realize go to the ceiling, he's probably going to be going for a flip reset, which is pretty standard.
There it is.
But Passata, look at him, sent in the second for Zafers. We were talking a lot about Tokyo Verde, but look at that aggression, and Maru just completely misreading it.
I mean, even if he didn't misread it, Plasma was firing across the net, looking for that bump. He had gone through effectively the entire team there, had Plasma, 1, 2, and 3. And yet another conversion from close range and way up the field. The confidence allowing the pushing. Oh, my goodness gracious me. What have my eyes just seen?
Your eyes have just seen genius and brilliance. To get the flip reset to go below arch, continue it on sideways, onto the crossbar, then the double tap down. That's not a Champ 3 double tap, that is an SSL Pro double tap. That's gorgeous, that is Realize.
So we're saying that you couldn't pull that one off?
I could if I was having a cheeky little dream. Oh, Tenhao, he's having a dream game.
That's just 2 in a matter of seconds, and that's the difference of this Tokyo Verde side and the quality. 1 double commit, 1 whiff there, and immediately fires it across the net. And that sort of goal has just launched another comeback. Zafers, they've worked so hard for this game, but now again staring down the barrel of a sweep.
Look, even if they're losing in this game, that I am so much more happy with how they perform. It has been a world of difference. It's a loss regardless. You expect a loss. Like, Zafers didn't come into this thinking that they were going to win. That's fine. Again, you have to play to your opponent. Zafers, though, third game, this is the one that you look at. What did you do differently in this one? You were being more proactive with your attack, but you weren't being silly and working your way out of position. There's still, though, a 0-second chance as I'm talking.
Maybe. No, I'm thinking it's that. Oh, it has been. Oh, the accident. You know when you're not going for a double, you end up getting it. That is unfortunate, but nothing fortunate about that win for Tokyo Verde. Some incredible goals as well to just sort of cherry on top that off from Realize. A late comeback was required. The weaknesses were shown there, but huge for Zafers. They get that confidence going into the lower bracket, as our next game here in the upper bracket will of course be Doggo against Bumpy Pumpy. Great names and even greater players. We'll see them after this break.
to pay with Visa. It's that fast. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Welcome back to the Intel World Open Japan closed qualifiers. Hi, joined by Digital Bacon, and to be honest with you, Bacon, I didn't realise I'd gotten things so wrong. Turns out Tokyo Verdy is actually a laundry company because Zephyrs were taken to the cleaners.
They were indeed, and I mean, straight up as an opening, this is sort of what we were expecting, and straight up, we know the power that Tokyo Verdy hold. Now, that Game 3, our league sort of saw them a little bit weaker, but realistically, I mean, in the back room, me and you were talking, and I straight up went to you, this is so Tokyo Verdy, because they were utilizing their opponents right there, live on air, as a bit of a scrimmage service. No disrespect to Zephyrs. They're a year too early. These are the young guns going up against a team that crafted the scene, the community in Japan, and by extent, Asia. And realized Tenhao and, of course, Maru were just holding back, pulling their punches, not as clinical and clean on their attacks, because they didn't want to score. Rather, they wanted to be attacked on. They got all their striking practice, their warm-ups out the way in games 1 and 2. In game 3, they wanted to be attacked. And the big takeaway for me is knowing that 2 goals got through. The defense of Tokyo Verdy is not perfect. There are gaps, there are weaknesses there.
And I'm sure that comparisons will be made to the first series that we saw in the Middle East just yesterday, where, of course, Samrock Gaming 3-0 swept the Ultimates. Big difference here, though. The Ultimates have been a team for a long, long time at this point. This team, Zephyrs, they're still a pretty fresh roster, actually. So the fact of the matter is they've gotten this good this quickly. We need to give them their praise. But we are reserving our highest of praises for the man of the moment. We were expecting something, Bacon, and realize delivered.
Oh, this goal just, you can't help but gush at it. Realizes, big turning point, we could argue there in game 3, but it was just such a display of mechanical skill. I'm sorry, can I just put that back to the start and let's just watch this all over again, because this is absolutely a bag of nuts ready to consume, and what a tasty treat that is. Damn, this is why we say Realize is absolute crack. This is why I was so confident to say put him in an OCE team and he'll be in a top 6 roster, because he has got the skills to pay the bills.
He's got the mind as well, just the delay. And then to get that double touch as well, beautiful. Let's see how that affects our bracket then, of course, with Zephyrs dropping down into the lower round 1. Of course, that lower round 1 going to be played off stream as Tokyo Verdy progresses into the upper finals, which will be on stream. But next on stream is going to be our second round 1 match featuring Doggo and Bumpy Pumpy. Of course, Bumpy Pumpy under a different guise, or a couple of different guises at this point, where they've been picked up by an org, dropped by an org, but now the majority of them have been picked up by an org. Very interesting situation, kind of similar actually to Zazonix as a sub for Sandrock going up against them in that first Middle Eastern match. But here we have Myken, who is on an org, is on a team with Olpix and Burn, but he's on Doggo with Battle Lane, who's played with Maru and Ten Hao, who are on Tokyo. Everyone knows each other, and it makes it personal.
That's it. It's all little infightings between these Japanese teams, and we absolutely love to see it. I don't mind so much on Bumpy Pumpy. Shalom coming on in. Like I said, the Grandmaster's sort of like the wizard of Japan, teaching all these other teams, all these other players, how to play Rocket League. And so I'm looking at Bumpy Pumpy and thinking, do they bring in the player with the experience to hold their nerve during a tournament of such high pressure like the Intel World Open, to which at that same time, if they do make it through, they can hold off against the rest of the teams from Asia. To me, that's a very solid plan, I believe.
Very solid indeed. Tylacto-san, Stumpy-san, over to you.
Thank you, Ira League. I appreciate being a Sam. That's very kind of you. These guys have got some history together. Not just Ira League and Bacon. Not just me and you, Tylacto. But Doggo and Bumpy Pumpy. Both brilliant names, by the way. I've giggled at Bumpy Pumpy like 5 or 6 times already this morning. And it went in favour of one.
It did. The lower bracket of the first qualifier, 2-0 scoreline in favour of Bumpy Pumpy, who rightly so the desk have highlighted really the sort of number 2 we're expecting. But, you know, they were certainly second best in the show match in RLCS as well. They were beat out 3-0, and hopefully we get a rematch of that against the Tokyo Verdy side in the winners bracket, but not to just sell this matchup short right here. Sure, they may come in as favourites as well, but I am expecting a performance out of Doggo. They're going to be some good boys, and they're going to put up a fight, even if they may have been down in that lower bracket. You know, they went strongly in the APL Nationals. Sure, they did, but they didn't make it to the playoff stage, and so that's why bringing in Nomoto has really sort of stepped up this team's game.
What does Nomoto bring to the roster? Because, as you said, with Doggo, it's certainly a chance to prove themselves for a lot of these teams. Essentially, aside from Tokyo Verdy, who are pretty much a proven team, what is it that Nomoto brings to Doggo?
It's just more experience at the very top level in the Asian scene. He was part of that fantastic NIMT team who got to the grand finals and lost, of course, to Tokyo Verdy, as everyone does in Asia, in the grand finals of APL Nationals. And by bringing in that level of quality, it's the sort of thing that can elevate not just the team, but the actual performances of the other players on the team. The sort of player that makes his teammates better, in a way.
There's already been a lot of opening pressure for Doggo over on Bumpy Pumpy. now, it's such a funny name, but now they get a chance to come together, and mate, honestly, it's one of those names that is just going to keep getting me, alright? Bumpy Pumpy. Remember I call them Bumpy? Big bumpers.
It just makes me think of Humpty Dumpty. I can't help but think of that in the back of my mind. Battling, we'll try and run it down the line. He's sort of falling off the wall and you have to put it back together again, but they are losing possession by the looks of it. Getting off the backboard, but Burn, patient in the right decision and just going to clear it.
If you keep talking about these eggs falling off walls and hurting themselves, everyone in the audience, in the egg-based audience, is going to leave, because that's not
true. There's a bit of a scramble on the defense there from Doggo, but hopefully they can keep that composure, certainly as the series goes on. They will have bad memories following that best-of-3 loss in the qualifiers to Bumpy Pumpy, but they bounced back from it. They qualified convincingly through the second, and so credit to them for that, going through the upper bracket at the second time of asking. If we can get a performance like that out from the likes of Mikan here, then what's to say that they can't get the win? That was a best-of-3 before, they got a best-of-5 on the main stream right here.
Best-of-3 is a completely different beast to a best-of-5 too. You lose a single match, which could ultimately come down to a single overtime, just one iffy play, anything very innocuous, right? And suddenly you're trying to reverse swing.
Yeah.
And it's a 2-game reverse sweep at that, so they can go any way, much less indicative of who is actually straight up the better team. The more games you go up in a series, of course, it means it's more consistent. You're going to be finding the more true result. But best of 5 is a great middle ground for that. Hopefully, as you said, it's going to be a much closer series than they saw before, and hopefully a lot closer, and it already is, than what we saw in the previous series in Tokyo Verde and Zephyrs.
Yeah, we've got through the first half of the game goalless with little to no chances until now. Mikan gonna strike first off a lovely recovery from the wall here, and Doggo are the one to strike first.
Fantastic recovery off the wall, lands and immediately jumps back off, uses his flip so fast too, using the inverted flick, gets over that final defender. If it did it normally, then it would have just clattered into him, and then suddenly he's out of position entirely. Great play from Doggo to get the lead to begin with as well, but it has been, I feel despite the start, pretty good pressure from Bumpy Pumpy, certainly expecting to score. Xiaolong not knowing what team he was on.
I mean, it was, I have to credit just how well he recovered though to get out of that disaster situation. Call an ambulance, but not for him. Has managed to recover that. I don't know how. Surely you'd have thought it was going to be an embarrassing own goal, and yet he avoided it. No unnecessary flips there, not like Simone fetching her panini in the break, but it's still going to be 1-0, and Doggo heading for the last minute have still got this lead.
That back right corner Burn. It's just going to try and push at Mikan to shoot the ball far away as quick as he possibly can. And Moto sending long down that right wing, finding Mikan as well. Great chance for Doggo to secure their second goal. Xiaolong having a massive misplay alongside his teammate. Olpix did not know what the play was.
A little bit of confusion on the back line, and maybe it's going to open up for another chance. It's off the... Oh no! Oh no, no! Look away! Look away! Cover your eyes, Stumpy!
Oh, it's disastrous. Oh no, Xiaolong had so much time to rethink his error.
I immediately regret my decision.
No, he was driving at that, and it kind of felt like it might happen, but then the pulling out of the attacker, where he assumed there would be a shot coming in, so therefore he was blocking, but nothing. Xiaolong teased us earlier with an own goal, and now he delivers.
That is painful. Xiaolong's pull-out game not on point. He was a little too late with the backflip, and it is going to be a 2-0 lead for Doggo. Trying to send it downfield for the recovery, but Bumpy Pumpy, for the first time, they're going to be losing their game to Doggo, and not only that, it's going to be the very first game of the series, and with the nerves definitely evident to see on the big stage, I'm looking at maybe an upset here.
I mean, Doggo have seemed to be the better team in this first game. I mean, even when there's been Bumpy attacks, it's come down to some very good saves or just interceptions on the passes. Looks like Doggo are just reading what Bumpy want to do, how they want to play, very, very efficiently. And with a 2-0 lead, great start for the upsetters.
And that's that clean sheet that we saw, and saw how much effect it has in the first series. The amount of confidence, the dent you can put into it in terms of your opponents by just restricting them from scoring can really just hamper how well they're playing, not just individually, but as a team as well. And Rocket League becomes a whole lot easier to win when you just make your opponent play worse, because, well, then you don't even have to play that well yourself.
Yeah, fantastic play in the end. It was Battlelane actually, who I don't think we even spoke about too much. Like, we were mainly talking about Moto and Mikan, who were getting all the goals, and they got 1 each. But Battle Lane, top of the table, putting in a real effort everywhere on the pitch, aside from offensively, it seems like. But that shot from Xiaolon, you can't get away with that. That is utterly disastrous.
You really can't hide it. That is going to be a memorable moment for the right and, well, most probably wrong reasons there. But it's nice that you highlight Battle Lane. I mean, he's been playing so well for the past year or so in Japan and really putting out the performance or so as of late. It's difficult when you're constantly living in the shadow of Tokyo Verdy, right? But he's really sparked them here already in this series, and he's going to need to keep that limelight on him, I think, if they're going to continue to pull off this performance, because one game does not win the series, and Bumpy, they've got time to strike back.
I mean, whoever does win this series is going to have to go through the impossible challenge of Tokyo Verdy. But Xiaolon, how's that for an answer?
And it took all of 9 seconds, and they have got it into the back of the correct net this time as well. A lovely pass off to the side. Oh, Biggs just realising couldn't turn the shot on net, so to turn it into a great pass off that wall, and the finish certainly satisfying as well. Doggo have just been brought back to reality.
Bumpy in this series, or at the start of this series, were the expected favourites. So it's been really good regardless of Doggo to come out and not be scared of them, you know, also going, suffering that defeat to them previously, down in the lower side of the bracket. Although those games were close, it was a 4-1, then a 3-2, so not a big problem whatsoever. Xiaolon, decent chance again to get a goal. Actually squeezes it in beautifully in the near post.
It was a really nice play as well. We're seeing Mikan try and get on the counter-attack. Much more fluid play from both teams. Lack of midfield game, but no issue I've got here is we're straight up end-to-end. You see Namoto here. He's going to be a little bit more patient. Didn't have much boost, and guess what? It ain't going to matter because he's just been wiped off the field here. We saw lots of physical play yesterday in the Middle East, and we're seeing some here in Japan. The question is, to what extent will they take it? Just how aggressive will they be willing to be?
I hope the Doggo continue to be as aggressive as they have been. Battle Lane, another fantastic interception on that ball. Namoto on the other wing too, putting on the pincer movement. And Battle Lane can secure his first goal, and you've got to say he deserves it.
He did, you rightfully highlighted him there. Nice work from Namoto to beat out 2 players, and Burn, he gets the block, but he just ends up helping pinch it in at 140.
Brilliant positioning from both Battle Lane and Namoto to get to continue the offensive despite theoretically Bumpy coming back onto a good play on the other end. Really, really nicely played. And shame that shot actually ends up going over. I really felt like that was a good chance to have another good chance on net, but Bumpy shooting high and not being nearly as clinical.
It was still, to be fair, quite a difficult shot. He's done well to get the amount of power on it as they're forcing triple commits out of the defense, but I agree it was possible to turn it on target with a reasonable amount without too many bounces, and, well, without no help from Doggo, we're not going to see any more own goals. A nice drop down there from Mikan as well. The awareness of these teams to find each other, like the awareness from Battle Lane to the equaliser to sit patiently away in the blind spot of the defenders, away from the ball, takes a lot of composure and experience, although no experience in terms of the backline, who has been abandoned, but Burn on the turn has put a rifle from shore to shore.
Brilliant send downfield as well. I mean, just right place, right time, right power, right angle, everything going the way of Burn, and Bumpy getting 1 goal lead again, and that was such a nice position that he found himself in. By no means was he expecting to have a shot there. He was moving in for the shadow, but very opportunistic.
It's a direct infield into a direct shot, nearly the drop down from Mikan. I don't think he saved. I'm pretty sure it was over the bar. Credit that. It is bouncing midfield as well. No, I'm reasonably confident. I'll defend him and say it was hitting the crossbar at the worst, but no, I mean, it took a lot of confidence to be willing to take that shot in case it was on target.
I mean, I respect him going for it. You're going to have to try and outplay your opponents and go for these unusual shots. Sometimes when that happens, you just have to presume there's a keeper there as well. And if there was a keeper there, then he would have been in a decent position to save it, lofting just below the bar. So, yeah, by no means was that a bad idea from him. Namoto trying to get another shot on there. What a block from Xiaolon, though.
Yeah, Mikan there, not showing the patience that we've known them for at times on offense. He was a little too close, and it's easy to be when you know you're chasing a lead as they're still down. Doggo heading for the final 2 minutes of game 2, and it is tense and easy to be so desperate and impatient to make the right thing that you end up being too close to the ball, and then you can't even touch it, and it's just really, really frustrating, and that ends up spiraling, and that can really hurt your mindset as a team. But it's still early days in the series, so that composure should still be there, as Olpix isn't going to get the flick he was looking for, and it's tense. It really is tense and difficult to perform fine mechanical movements such as that under pressure like this.
Nemoto trying to pressure that back line over and over again, though. Ends up being low on boost, has to rotate out, finds the ball with him, which I don't think he wanted. He was just trying to go on a reconnaissance mission, get a little bit of boost, and then head back into the fray. Good demo from Burn onto Mikan. We approach 1 minute left in this game, and Olpix shot on net, saved.
Big pre-flip from Mikan there. He's going to get his saviour medal, but that is just as dangerous. Oh my goodness! The sort of block from Nemoto there, Shaolin's shot, to force it onto the crossbar and then back off of the defender again. I don't know how that stayed out, but how important that could end up being. The bump on Burn, but it's not put in at the back post, and the shot won't break clear. Still, Doggo hold on.
One thing that I've been so happy to see in this region are those passing plays. Time and time again, they have come in every section of the pitch. Defensively, in the midfield, and finally, that back third, battle lane to Nemoto, absolutely smashing top left corner, Doggo draw even.
In fact, he gets that angle and still sends it in at over 120. That flip timing was scrumptious, and the best part was you talked it into existence, Stumpy. You got a mystic ball or something?
Mate, I love passing plays. Always said it. And Japan, as a region generally, they've been getting so many.
Oh, the bomb!
That is disrespectful on the goal line.
I mean, this is just sheer violence from Olpix. So he was looking for the demo. He found it initially, and then Burn with the bump that ends up mattering the most, as Nemoto had an incredible save just a minute or so ago, but now he just finds himself getting cyberbullied.
Bumpy Pumpy now 1 goal ahead yet again. Can they hold this lead? Nemoto leaving that ball, sees the boost, much more tempting. Battle lane, nearly tapping over the defender, but Olpix with a fantastic block out. Nemoto using that 100 boost from the right mid. Get the ball central, Mikan missing, opens it up for Shaolin. All of that pressure suddenly dissipating for Doggo.
Which just evaporates in a second, like you say. It's Mikan trying to build from the back, but the ball can't touch the floor. The floor is lava, and Nemoto, he's surfing on it right now as he runs it round the corner, but it's put down in the end, and Bumpy Pumpy have tied us right back up.
Brilliant defense in the end to make sure that ambition doesn't materialize into a goal. And Bumpy Pumpy, they got sent back to just an even scoreline multiple times, and they kept fighting to get it out. They opened up the scoring, and they finished the scoring as well. I will say though, my favourite goal, it's got to be that infield pass, battle lane to Nemoto to the top left corner. That was gorgeous.
That was very, very gorgeous, you're right, but they didn't have the defense they had in game 1, and that's credit, of course, to Bumpy Pumpy for breaking it down and stepping it up, and I think a lot of that was on Burn's shoulders. He wasn't always involved, but my goodness, was he always physical, and to be honest, that also comes through at Olpix. They're just sort of ramping it up, and Doggo, whilst they're still impressive, like you pointed out, on offense, it's been stepped up, and their defense needs to do likewise.
Now a chance for either team to be taking the lead in the series, as the winner, we can't stress it enough, has to face off against the team, the best team, I guess the team as well, in Japan, in Tokyo. Yeah, it's going to be a massive task for either of them, but this is definitely a chance to keep one life, right? Because if you're going to be going into that series, you think, okay, chances are we'll be sent to the lowers. That's a completely okay thing to think, I believe, but you have to try and maintain your life here to even get the opportunity, because otherwise it's going to be a much tougher road ahead. Either of these teams deserving it. And Doggo, I'm happy that they came out in that first game and they completely shattered any illusion that they were going to be swept again.
Exactly, and for those of you not familiar, of course, this double elimination bracket we've seen most. I'm just going to keep on talking whilst we don't analyse that extra own goal there. The double elimination bracket, all best of 5 here. 4 teams enter, only 1 team leaves to go, of course, to the Asia mainland regional finals. So that one spot today, Stumpy, is worth a minimum of $6,500. And if you can, beat the other teams that have come out from Singapore and Malaysia there, to top prize gets 17,500. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
Brilliant. That's so much money. That's just so much fun as well, to make sure that everybody is going to be competing for one of the biggest individual prize pools in their region. And it just means that it makes the entire season worth it, and it makes it also viable to pursue as a career, because I'd love to see Japanese players and the Japanese region shown more in mainstream Rocket League, and the fact that the Intel World Open is giving these guys that stage and giving them the opportunity as well to compete at that level, it's just so good to see. Doggo currently benefiting though off, and I'm going to say it, the own goal from Burn. We said we weren't going to talk about it, mate. But good lord, what on earth are you doing there?
It's a bit of a habit. I mean, first it was Shaolin who was the imposter, and this time he's a crewmate, and he's just had to watch Burn vent right in front of him, up in the air there, and just turn it in for a second own goal. And that shot probably should have been on target from Battle Lane. I would say he snatched it. Instead, he just sort of jumped early and rammed his face into it, and it wasn't all effective as old Pixel's double touch nearly, that was very effective, but he just couldn't find the second contact.
He's halfway through this game now. Doggo still leading with that 1-0. Battle Lane, not a great first touch, sends it too long. It's going to have to settle for the 50 on the back line. I think wanted to tap it up, go for something aerial, but even then he didn't have too much boost, so maybe just playing for a little bit of time, bit of possession. Something that you can do ultimately, play for the seconds off the clock.
The thing is though, that's the second time in quick succession that he hasn't had the composure in front of net when it matters, and when he's the player who consistently has been making the difference for Doggo. I take that back. Mikan has just wrestled his way through the entire back line, and Opix was required to make that block, though a good block it was.
To that left wall sees Burn go high onto the backboard, attempts the double tap, can't get it, neither can Mikan. Thankfully no threat flying in. Shaolin on target, Battle Lane onto the backboard. Final 90 seconds now, ticking down off the clock. Moto working his way up the pitch, great chance. Will there be a third player coming in? Yes, Battle Lane does have the ambition. But look at Olpix, great positioning midfield. Low on boost though, has to use 30 just to get back down to the floor. Shaolin with a vital save.
He had to get back quick there. It was absolutely sent cross corners by Namoto, and Battle Lane finds himself with time on the ball again, but his second touch again lacking the precision here as we head for the final minute. Doggo though, they don't need that extra goal. They still have that lead, and Bumpy haven't had any real convincing offense until about now, where they're sending it hopefully towards that backboard. The clear is going to get missed. It's all a little bit nervous on the side of Doggo as the shot will come through, but Namoto, he makes that save as Burn sends it right back into the mixer, but Mikan, the spanner in the works, he's going to send it right back out.
I would have loved to have seen, because there was nobody else pushing up a Bumpy, that pass just never happened. Like that just gave away the possession of the ball. It was very hopeful there'd be somebody there, but ultimately there wasn't, and his teammates need to call that, or he needs to listen to the teammates, and that call did end up coming in. Good demo though from Burn to clear out the net. Mikan no longer living. Battle Lane attempting the double touch, but Olpix clearing off the backboard. And look at how speedily the ball is working back down the pitch. Namoto holding that back line so strongly.
I just don't know how he's consistently getting it through the two midfielders of Bumpy who are there to sort of keep up the pressure, but they're neither here nor there when it comes to actually contesting the ball. So it could end up going through, and it will. 1 second left, and it is 1-1, and through Burn it comes.
Namoto, why are you pushing up that far? You've got 1 second left, bud. Brilliant shot though from Burn. There's going to be a pointless kickoff here.
Doesn't matter, the redemption.
Swim along the floor, and then we go to another kick.
That's true, but I mean, think about the redemption arc for Burn there. To finally put that Game 3 right, and Game 3 in these situations is momentous in best of 5. So that go-ahead series point game, Burn nearly lost it for his team early on in the game, but he has just kept them in it.
And we both felt like that touch a second ago was also going to be an own goal, which would have been utterly disastrous.
It crossed my mind. It crossed my mind. Hang on a minute, that was a snappy shot on the offensive Burn. He's uncontested. He's going to sink it. The save. Oh, it nearly stayed out, but it will not burn. The full-on redemption 30 seconds into overtime, and 2-1 is the game in Game 3. 2-1 is the score in the entire series.
The man of the match, Burn. despite an own goal, somehow turning it around. Look at that. He got 2 accolades, 1 overtime goal and 1 own goal. That's how bipolar his game ended up being, and the juxtaposition of Burn.
The literal duality of Burn. He's literally two-faced right now. The question is, I don't know what to expect out of game 4. It's been a roller coaster here. We see that goal, just 1 second left. I was wondering if it was going to tick out and bounce on the goal line, but he had enough hot sauce on it to force that one through. And Doggo, they're going to be thinking about what could and probably should have been. They were not, they had their own chances during that game as well, and to only get 1 goal through your opponent's own goalie, they'd be disappointed.
The question on everybody's mind is, will Burn score every single goal in a game again?
Maybe, honestly, he's in form.
He's in form. So you know what, he might get an own goal yet again. But Xiaolong, full pitch carry, ends up with 0 boost on that final touch.
It's like the Olympic hurdles. He gets up over 1 and he sees another one coming. He just sort of kicks it straight over into the top shelf. And Doggo, that's 3 unanswered goals, and suddenly, it's early on in game 4, but I would say they're on the ropes and the punches are swinging in, and they really need to respond sooner rather than later.
That was really nice play from Xiaolong, because I said it had 0 boost, and he did, until he then went for the final touch on the ball, at which point he pre-jumped over a boost pad and then boosted in mid-air as he caught it.
Yeah.
He had needed that extra nudge from the penny, gets over the top of that final defender, outstanding stuff, and Pumpy with that lead. That is huge confidence going into this potential final game.
It really is. That's the secret strat, jumping just before you go over the boost pad, because you don't need to be on the ground in order to collect it. And at 12, the difference it makes in an aerial cannot be overstated. As Burn, he is hunting there, but he's not going to find anything. In fact, he feels a bit silly now. He has to rotate back to the midfield, but he's got plenty of boost, and you see he's facing forward in a beautiful infield pass. The shot is even more so 2 goalkeepers, and it just didn't matter.
There's a negative angle pass as well, tapping it backwards from Old Picks. How does he have that vision? Battle Lane, no idea that shot from Burn is going to be finding the net, let alone literally just on his top right. Very savable, but utterly unimaginable that shot was going to come in and find that angle.
No own goal. No third own goal will come through, pinching it with the crossbar, but Doggo didn't have anyone contesting that ball, and it only needed an extra touch, and Burn up the other end. It's falling to pieces for Doggo.
The composure from Pumpy that entire time, but then Burn to just leave and trust his teammates to get the ball out when that nearly went in about 3 seconds ago. Brilliant rotation out from him, so proactive, so much faith in his team, and ends up getting the 3rd goal. Burn attempting the air duel, great save away from the Moto, but look at the momentum that Pumpy have now established.
He's trying to contest it up in the midfield, but it's just so difficult for Doggo to contest. They just, sort of like a shadow of them form themselves earlier on in the series. It turns out your opponent's own goaling is actually really helpful for your own confidence, and now that Pumpy have stopped doing it, it's getting a whole lot more difficult. As Doggo, we've seen them score great goals under pressure. We know they can do it. They know they can do it, but it's just fallen silent a little bit here. The first 2 minutes of this decisive game 4, and they thankfully have that time to work with, but there's been nothing clear-cut.
This has been Pumpy's game in its entirety, but the pressure that Doggo are putting on, there's legs to it. There's so many chances that they have got to at least keep threatening that back line. The main question mark for them, and the biggest priority, is going to be just securing somebody towards the back. Someone whose main priority it will be for when it starts to hit the fan, head back to net. Make sure that you're covering the back line, because Pumpy's counter-attacking is huge. That's another chance again. Xiaolong locked in, quite frankly, to be getting that goal. Xiaolong again 50ing Battle Lane on the goal line.
That is just bullying. That is straight up bullying from Xiaolong. Like, he just sees it, slams it down. Battle Lane's like, please, leave me some. Okay, never mind. 4-0 will be the scoreline, and that is tough. It's not over yet, but based off what we've seen so far this game, you'd be forgiven for thinking so. I refuse to give up on Doggo. They will keep going to the end. Man's best friend they are right now, but they're kind of making enemies of themselves. As on the defense, there's another whiff now from Mikan. Thankfully, it was off target, but the shots are blazing and coming through relentlessly from Bumpy Pumpy. And if based on what we've seen, I don't know if it's going to stop anytime soon.
Tokyo Verde-esque performance from Bumpy Pumpy in this fourth match, looking so much more dominant than their adversary. It's great to see. I'm loving watching these guys really start to link up together. And I was mentioning the passing plays that were going on previously. The way that Japan has seemed to just utilise passing plays time and time again as Xiaolong secures his hat-trick has been so much fun to watch. This was a solo play. It came off technically an assist from Olpix, but I don't even know when he got the touch on the ball. The way that so many passes have just been rocketed infield, Olpix earlier passing it off to Burn and sending it above battle lane, is something that I feel is very unique to the Japanese region. They will always look for the pass first and then try and go for the solo if a teammate isn't present. So brilliant 50 from the Moto.
Kept themselves in the game there. First time they've really won out a convincing challenge, especially over Xiaolong in the midfield there, who really was the commander all this in game for that midfield. And yeah, you're right, Nemoto has somehow just wedged out that 50. They are back within 4, but the time is 1:24, and that is a mammoth task.
Managed to squeeze it underneath as well, which is, you expect the pre-jump to come out, so then going low on your challenge is exactly the play. Now Long able to clear this one away as battle lane will secure the double into the corner. The boost going to the advantage of Doggo as well. Good shot on there, Xiaolong using his remaining boost to clear it away. Now at 0 though, he can't do too much to it. Will he play nuisance? No. He wants to head back and support his teammates.
Was getting that 50, but he's lost out on it, and it's running downfield, and it's dangerous, but Olpix can't quite turn it in. I think I know who can for his 4th of the game, Xiaolong, and with 52 seconds on the clock, shall we speak the word that shall not be spoken?
Oh, there's so many words that should not be spoken on an official broadcast. Which one do you mean?
There's quite a long list, you're right. I'm thinking the one that begins with B and ends with Brazil.
Maybe we should be talking about the Brazil, because there's a chance for it. Bumpy will want to do what Tokyo Verde were too polite not to.
Yeah, they really were polite, and they've got the chance though, because Doggo very much earned their right at that goal, but it could end up being a painful one. Still, the time ticks down though, as this is now tense for the pride of Doggo, who are going to have to fight in that lower bracket against Zafers, and that's a big game. We won't see that one as Mikan tries to strike on forwards, and the Moto was absolutely battering into the back of the net. They're zoning the defender, but it did. In fact, he's going to get a demo as well now into the final 10 seconds as Burn. He runs it downfield. You know they want it. It's going to pop out to Xiaolong, and he's going to find it. It has happened.
No, not the Brazil. Oh, that's cruel, that's harsh, but Bumpy goes through to face off versus Tokyo Verde Esports, the biggest challenge team in the entirety of Japan. They are a scary, scary roster to try and do anything against, but Bumpy, they can keep playing like this and play ultimately this exact same game, because they got that over Doggo, a better team than Zafers is. And the maximum goals that the Tokyo Verde got over Zafers, it was 7-0, and they only just managed to get that one out. Bumpy, fantastic performance. Looking forward to seeing how they perform in that next game, in the winners finals versus Tokyo Verde Esports. That will be the next game that we are seeing as well, so stick around through this break.
Yeah. Panini for Simone.
Tap to pay with Visa. It's that fast. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Bumpy Pumpy sat on a wall, and Bumpy Pumpy had a great fall, but through all of the saves and a 1-second goal, they now head to the Tokyo Bowl. Welcome back to the Intel World Open. Myself, Ira League, him, Digital Bacon. This Team Bacon woke up and chose violence today.
That's it, Bumpy Pumpy versus Doggo. We're expecting a Game 5, super close series, but I think Burn had other plans, didn't he? And by extension, the entire team is Olvex and Shalom were absolutely popping off. And on the opposite end, battling Mike and Namoto, not playing bad games at all, but Bumpy Pumpy just... I mean, they were the expected second team, only just above Doggo, but boy, they making good in their chances today.
Yeah, and even featuring a B Brazil there in the final game, which was incredibly impressive, certainly. Of course, if you're interested in B Brazil, actually, that close qualifier happens tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled on twitch.tv/ESL. Gotta say, though, Bacon, if I'm Tokyo Verde looking at this match, and seeing Bumpy Pumpy, the team that is going to be facing you in your upper bracket final, scoring 2 own goals. I mean, sure, what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong?
Yeah. I'm definitely feeling you there. I'm going between these two games, like easily Tokyo Verde, right?
Yeah.
But it's that difference in opponents that also really gives Tokyo Verde the freedom, like we said, to go into that game free and just not give up on their attack, but hold their punches so that they can then just be defended, practice it. Why are they doing that? Because they're, respecting Doggo and, of course, Bumpy. They know Bumpy and Doggo can attack, so they want to be in the best state. They want to be ready for this next matchup, and they probably were expecting Bumpy to come on through at the same time, and they know it's not going to be a walk in the park for them.
I was waxing lyrical to you there, but the 1 second goal was very important indeed, and we've got this on the telestrator bake, and we're going to be breaking it down. And was this just a case of open defense, or was it impossible to defend?
So this realistically is defense straight up. You can see it underplay here, and no one is home. The Moto Verde has sort of had a little relax. He's, probably taking a little sip of tea or something, and he's pushed up into a place he should not be. Simple rule within Rocket League, Ira League, always put a man between the net and the ball, the defender. Naturally, you don't always have to do that, but it's just a safe rule of thumb if you play. And right there was no one ready to stop that shot coming on through, especially when it's pretty well illustrated. It's really well projected. You can see Shalon up on the wall. Fairly decent, easy pass on over to Burn, and then just no one able to stop it. Namoto, as soon as that ball is moving up the wall to Shalon, should be going, okay, right, we just need to hold the defense. I'm getting in net, just ready to make one save. That's all he had to do, but unfortunately not, and that cost Doggo the game, and if not, the series.
Japanese love their baseball. You gotta have someone on home, but let's go on home to our bracket, shall we? And take a look then at that lower bracket match, which is going to be happening off stream. Zephyrs versus Doggo. I think it depends on the Tokyo Verde mood, right? I think they were in third gear for a lot of that match. They only really kicked it up into high gear in the final few seconds of game number 3 when they had to go from behind to win that game. Doggo, they've just come off a loss, of course. A lot of mistakes from Bumpy. I think it's going to be a really scrappy affair down there. I'm not sure which one we're going to be seeing progress through the lower bracket, but in the upper bracket, Bacon, Tokyo Verde versus Bumpy. I think we're going to see them step it up again. I do not see this team losing any games in this series.
Yeah, at most you give Bumpy one game in that, and it's just more of like maybe another relaxing coming on out from Tokyo Verde, where they just chill off a little bit, get themselves just reclimatized, because they do sometimes just get way too overconfident in themselves. So I'm going to go 3-1, giving Bumpy the benefit of the doubt, but we'd be lying if we said this couldn't be a sweep, and the whole day could realistically be a sweep from Tokyo Verde, because they saw the opportunity of the Intel World Open and they formed the Japanese super team.
Yeah. Stumpy, Tylacto, what do you guys think?
I think it's probably going to be a bit of a sweep, personally. Bumpy looked fantastic versus Doggo, ended up securing that 3-1. But Tokyo Verde, man oh man, both these guys coming off those really great series previously. Obviously that's why they're here in the winners finals. But the history Tylacto still speaks towards Tokyo Verde.
It really does. When you look about the previous 2 times they matched up. And of course, these are the players who played in the RLCSX show match, and that one went 3-0 in favour of Tokyo Verde. And those games weren't that pretty either. In terms of the tally, it was 12 goals to 4, and I think a lot of that just came down to Verde's more grand final experience, the more pressure handling, and they really did handle it better. And maybe there's been a change since then as well, because they met in the qualifiers, Stumpy, and that was pretty close. Both games 4-3, and the second was an overtime. That's a very close best of 3, of course. Still technically a sweep though, Bumpy, sorry, I nearly said Humpty Dumpty again. But they are technically 0-5 in their past 5 games against Tokyo Verde. They are yet to register that win, but what a time it would be to do it, though. The thing is, you look at that previous series, I hate to say it, but Byrne, he was on fire, and he really made the difference in that Game 3 late, under the pressure of maybe going down in the series. So I'm sensing maybe a change for this bumpy team, and whilst I'm not going to outright call that they're going to win the series, I think they can at least get one game.
I think the problem is that Tokyo Verde is precisely as the beautiful Bacon said. They are the Japanese super team. They saw this event, they saw their opening, and they are taking their chances. They used it earlier on, something that I hadn't really noticed at the start in that first series versus Zephyrs. They used it as scrims. Game 1 and 2, that was them being fully aggressive. How many goals can we score? It was 4-0, it was 7-0. They got a lot of goals. Then the third match, completely right in what Bacon saw, it was defensive practice. Then as soon as they think, oh, actually, okay, it's even, there's a minute left, let's just get a couple of goals buffer, then at least we can then practice again. Like, don't worry about it. They just did it. Realise, just did it. And that seems to be the way and the mantra of the Tokyo Verde team. I feel like we are going to be seeing Bumpy Pumpy maybe take one. At a real push, they will take one. But how do you... I don't understand because Tokyo Verde, they're everything that this Japanese squad should end up being. Only one of these teams goes through to represent Japan at the regional finals.
I mean, we saw it yesterday, though. We saw it yesterday. We also thought that Sandrock should be the ones to go through, and yet they lost in what is this very series, effectively. 3-0 sweep, and yes, my eyebrows would be burnt off by Byrne if that ends up happening. I would not be able to believe it in my wildest dreams, but I am dreaming and praying right now, because I do believe in Bumpy Pumpy. They are a team that is on the up, and I'm so glad we get to see this series and show the depth that is developing, not just in Japan, but in Asia as a whole, because you're right, Tokyo Verde did see this entire tournament, and they did see the $45,000 prize pool, and they absolutely want that spot. The best way to do it, of course, get yourself through with that advantage in the grand finals.
Yeah, we're just trying to get this lobby going as well. We've had a couple of lobby problems, so we're trying to get everybody in, make sure everyone's ping is all nice and happy as well. It's what happens with online events. Not all going to be perfect, don't worry about it. In the meantime, you can listen to me in Thai-Lacto, alright? And you're going to like it. This entire region is, you mentioned the word earlier, of development. You said that it was a region that is developing from the top down, essentially, where you've got to realise who is Mr. Japan. He is what everybody associates Japanese Rocket League with being. And then you've also got, though, other players that then take on those coaching roles and lift everybody to the level that Realise and the rest of Tokyo Verde are. I would love to see these guys, when we can have in-person events again, attend some DreamHack events, attend some LANs, have a chance to go to an RLCS eventually, and see if they can repeat the success that we've seen Oceania have, that we've seen South America have as well, where they take series off of the biggest region's best.
I completely resound and agree with those statements, but I have to say, Stumpy, the image of Realise being Mr. Japan is stuck in my head right now. I'm imagining with a banner across his chest like some sort of model, and he's just there, I am Mr. Japan, and enters the field here for Game 1.
And here he goes to start everything off. Realise with a cheeky little touch and then a bump. Old pace, moving out the pitch with Xiaolong. Good demo, removes Ten Hao from the back line. And Xiaolong, good aggressive play immediately out the gate, taking not the ball to the goal, but himself to the player.
It's a sort of aggression they need to come out with. They sit back. Tokyo Verde are just going to completely control this game. They need to get up in their face. We talk about making your opponents play worse, and the very main thing for now is that Bumpy don't continue the own goaling habits that we saw at times. And the best way to avoid that potentially happening is to never let the ball get near your goal. But that one is quite uncomfortably close already in the very first minute. It's the pace of the matchup is evident to see as Ten Hao had to rush back to make that block as well.
I hope Tokyo Verde are going into this series respecting their opponent as well and realising what they can do. Because there'll be no doubt that Tokyo Verde were watching the previous series. There'll be no doubt that Bumpy Pumpy were watching the starting series in the entirety of today. And they will know what each other are capable of. Bumpy Pumpy more so than Tokyo Verde, I'm imagining. But it's also a way that you're going to be able to learn in this series. I completely agree with what you said earlier, that we will not be seeing a bumpy victory if they sit back and let Tokyo Verde attack them. But that shot from Maru, top corner was found, and so is the first goal.
Such a beautiful shot. It's just that in no man's land was the defender at full burn. He's there, he's not really back, he's not really forward, and unfortunately when he finds himself like the sort of Coke Pepsi dispenser, you sort of press both buttons at the same time, right? And you just, you can't do that in Rocket League. You need to pick one, you need to make that decision, and unfortunately, he just tried both, ends up getting punished, and now it's doubled down, as I think they're beginning to realise what sort of situation they might be in, because really, already 2-0 in the blink of an eye, problems are afoot.
Cheeky boy Maru sets up Realize and then bumps the defender out the way to open up the net in its entirety. 2 goals scored, both from Maru's help or from his shot to begin with. And he's showing off that I think a lot of the focus typically is going to be on Realize. Obviously on this squad we've got a massive push towards him. Also on Tenhao. He has been completely spoken up by Bacon earlier on that he is one of the best players on this team. But Maru, he's making a great point that this is a 3-man roster and we should be talking about him just as much as the others, because it seems like he's wanting to use this almost as his proving ground.
Oh my goodness, he's certainly proving it with a shot at the back post there. He really has been the new kid on the block for this Tokyo Verde team, but their level of dominance they're achieving with him now is better than ever before, and I think really you can see why.
Yeah, brilliant movement in as well. Maru respecting that Realize was going to get the bump and the pass out, does manage to. 3-0 before half-time even commences. Good idea there from Olpix, go below Realize, but it's caught short. And on the backboard, Maru does not need to touch that because both of his mates are behind him, so that's not the biggest issue in the world. However, I would have liked to have seen Xiaolong get a touch.
Just need that breakthrough goal, the exact same as the first series. Now it became so much closer afterwards. Tokyo Verde need to be kicked off their pedestal because they are looking so comfortable right now. That pedestal's got a massage chair and everything included. It's the whole business right now. They are chilling with 2 minutes on the clock in game 1, and Bumpy Pumpy, they are doing a good job of disrupting it in the blue half. They are conserving possession nicely, but as they look forward across to the pass there's no direct shot, and Realize with his little free flip is going to get the touch away. It's just that, not quite the touch he was probably looking for, and nearly that was a little bit of a chance.
God, that was trust. Jeez, that was Tenhao just not even, just seeing the ball, thinking, okay, I'll go for that back touch and shadow it on the way.
There it is.
Xiaolong returning it down the other end, destroying Tenhao on the dribble.
I'm telling you, he's an Olympic hurdler. He really is. Tenhao just had to sort of make a challenge, but Xiaolong was just one step ahead, and his flick was way over his head. He follows that one up easily, and suddenly Bumpy Pumpy back within 2, and now they've kicked it out of neutral. Just how far can they go, and just how much fuel do they have in the tank?
This is definitely a different way that Tokyo Verde have conceded. That wasn't them wanting to scrim out the back. That was not them trying to practice defense. That was Tenhao being caught short, caught his trousers down, and Xiaolong being able to absolutely capitalize on it. Brilliant play from him. Great play from Bumpy Pumpy to continue as well. And like you say, 2 goals, incredibly manageable in 2 minutes. Sorry, in 1 minute rather.
It's incredibly manageable in just a couple of kickoffs. The amount of kickoff goals we saw yesterday were outrageous. I'm quite glad that we haven't seen as many today, but I can say we have seen the own goals. Maybe Tokyo Verde, imagine getting them to own goal. That really put a sort of dent in the sort of ego that they've probably built up for themselves, and rightly so. Not that they're the type of characters to, but you have to have the confidence in a game like Rocket League, as that is going to come bouncing off the crossbar and the post, and it's going to go back to the post again for good measure. It's got a good friend there in that post, and yet not the back of the net. It will find Tokyo Verde having to defend, and maybe this is going to be a big chance. A big save that is from Maru, who's under pressure as that ball bounces down off his crossbar, and not only did he save it, Stumpy, but he got it out of the way of the goal.
Yeah, outstanding placement from that clear away, and that's what they're contending with, you know. That's what Bumpy Pumpy know that they need to do. They need to get every shot opportunity on target, or at least make it threatening to draw out a defender or 2, so then you can deliver the killing blow. But Tokyo Verde in game 1 are going to be winning it at least 3-1. Great performance by them, but by no means comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the defining 2 minutes was just a bit of a knockout punch from them, and it was always going to be hard for Bumpy Pumpy to respond from that. But if you just look at the second half of the game, well, Bumpy Pumpy won it out effectively. So if that can continue, we may see super, super close games like we saw in the qualifiers when these two teams played. Of course, there were 7 goals in those two games, both 4-3 apiece. But something tells me that we may not be seeing a 3-0 as Bumpy Pumpy can continue to go from strength to strength.
It'd be nice if we didn't see a 3-0. It'd be good if we saw a game or two from Bumpy Pumpy. But you've got to think that when it comes down to, say there's an overtime, say it just comes down to the final minute and Tokyo Verdy are behind, you've got to back them to still perform.
Yeah.
You've got to think that they're still going to make it out with the win regardless. And Bumpy Pumpy in those situations will need to stay clutch and they'll need to keep their head on their shoulders as Tenhao saving the skin of the Starman.
I mean, we know that they can be clutch, and we know they can perform under pressure, though. In terms of Bumpy Pumpy, who are going to get a nice joint onto the backboard here. In fact, it's going to be down. It's going to be into the net, and Old Pigs is just going to just gently drop that one in, take care of that ball. That ball deserves a nice bit of care indeed, as realised he's just faked out there, won't get the block, and they do take the lead.
Brilliant shot from Olpix. That is exactly what he needed to do. Send it low to realise he's shown his hand. Olpix is fully aware of where that block's coming in on. It's going high. Send it low. There's no defender. That is where you can catch Tokyo Verdy out. Where his teammates are so convinced, oh yeah, of course Realise has got that. That as soon as he doesn't, it's no problem. But Maru receiving the pass from Realise, immediate venom, return to the Bumpy Pumpy half.
Big plays from Old Pix all round this game as he gets another save there inside the first minute. It has been a busy one, but Tokyo Verdy still goalless for now. It's just I can't see that lasting the duration of the game. I talked about how clutch Bumpy Pumpy have been in reference to the game 3 we saw in their previous series. The 1 second left equaliser as there's plenty of time left for this equaliser. Tenhao top shot.
From Realise's perspective, that looked like bullying. Because Tenhao was up in the air, the ball falling perfectly towards him off of Realise's pinch, and the defender was just had to jump and hold.
Yeah.
We're very close to it. But man, oh man, that placement from Tenhao is utter perfection. The equaliser for Tokyo Verdy earned and delivered.
Satisfying pinch to get it to roll out so cleanly into the midfield, not too short, not too long, such good weighting, and yeah, ended up being that nearly unsavable shot. It's just difficult. The Bumpy Pumpy found themselves on the back foot, and when they're turned backwards, they've got no chance of beating this Tokyo Verdy team to the ball. Of course, you would expect them to be faster in most parts, but you're going to have to try, and you're going to have to keep them in check if you're going to make them lose that confidence that they are just playing with a swagger because of right now. As you see the space given to Tenhao, it's much better that he was shut down early. We need more of that, but realise he just seems to have complete authority when he goes for that ball. He picks out a teammate again, and this time it's Maru to the bottom corner.
It's the game that me and Cole play called Fake or No Fake. Did Realise mean to miss that second touch?
It's up to Maru to call it. It's really effective if Maru has called it, because the opponents can't deal with it because they have to respect the potential double chucks. We'll never know if Realise had the boost in order to put that. I mean, the point is, has science gone too far? Oh my goodness! Yes, it absolutely has!
Oh, science has gone too far. That pitch has gone just far enough.
Oh my goodness!
Linking up with Shaolon to get the dreamy team pitch 169 kilometers per hour from their own half. Bumpy Pumpy slam it home.
That is one of the nicest pinches I have ever seen, and it is a hell of an equaliser. If you can pull that off, what can't you pull off? As Bumpy Pumpy nearly straight off kickoff end up trying to get another, but suddenly they need to get back. They need to defend. Maru has just been absolutely zoned out. Talk about sumo wrestling. He just got completely kicked off the ball there. 2-2 as we approach halftime, and what a game this one's shaping up to be.
Oh, that's just perfect. That's such a nice shot. I love it. I want more of them. More team pinches, please, to just rock it into the net. That'd be great. Realise to find Tenhao on the backboard. The pre-flip gets it central. Nearly from Olpix getting an own goal. Just tapping it in with his nose. Doesn't manage to, which is fantastic for that side. Realise at the ceiling again. I feel like before we would have seen Realise go for something a lot more delicate. A slower play into a flip reset. he has got a gigantic amount of respect for every player on Bumpy Pumpy, where he thought, I need to get rid of this ball. I need to send it fast and hard as quick as I can.
Really, it's just good that for Bumpy Bumpy to know that suddenly the real confidence to sort of take that control and patience of the ball is suddenly a bit lacking. We are going to see it here, but you see it immediately punished by Xiaolong, who just removes him from the field. But Burn, he's got nowhere to go in the midfield, and Old Pixel was required as well. Has realised he's up looking for the flip reset, but he's got no boost to get it, so it just pops out, and Xiaolong makes the block. Old Pixel, he picks it up well. He's whisked it around the midfield, but Tenhao is back, and he's done a good job on the defence for the most part. It's the patience, the fake, realise you see that pre-jump. That was such good offense, but even better defense.
Speaking earlier on, where if it came down to, say, a final minute with them being equal or a little bit behind, Tokyo Verdy would have the advantage. But right now, it's looking like Bumpy Pumpy. They know that. They know that Tokyo Verdy would love to be playing their game at the moment, and so that's precisely what they're stopping from happening. Maru to send long, then not quite able to get a touch on it, and so we'll send it back down the other end. Under a minute left now. That's an own goal shot. Ends up being just the perfect pass.
Would have got PTSD if that was a third for the day, but we talked about, ironically, making Tokyo Verdy home goals. Oh my goodness, Maru! He doesn't need teammates. He's going to pass it to himself off the post. I mean, it was a shot direct, but what a shot it was.
That landing into the immediate shot, it wasn't quick, it wasn't perfect, but it was effective. The third goal for Tokyo Verdy. With only 40 seconds remaining, Bumpy Pumpy now needs to be getting one in regulation at minimum. That is a very hard ask. They're going to need to do it, otherwise they're going to be going 2-0 down in this series that they have fought valiantly in every game so far in.
It was a good save out from Burn, but he lost out on the 50 at the hands of Maru, who's really, to me, been a standout performer so far this series. Tenhao, he's going to get another good 50 and realise he is up and he will not find the finish. It was good defence there from Bumpy Bumpy, but it's flicked out and it's all hopeful. All three players huddling around the orange net is not what you want to see when you got 10 seconds to get a goal, as Xiaolong isn't going to be allowed to try it. Olpix is allowed the ball and it is going to bounce dangerously, but the patient defence and linking up to clear it all the way down the field. Tokyo Verdy, a different class of defense, and they withstand the Bumpy Pumpy pressure, and it may have been a bumpy road, but they see it out 3-2 in game 2.
Tell you what though, that was not safe. That was not just a locked in Tokyo Verdy win by any means. Bumpy Pumpy, again, getting the goal of the game. Just that team pitch. I want to see it again. That was a great touchdown. Old pitch with the fake out. Tell you what though, actually, that was nice. That was a great pinch in. Tenhao getting the shot over the top. But look at this.
Here we go. Oh my goodness gracious me. I'm surprised we don't need a new ball. It was probably that light of like punching it. It was like a beach ball. When you like stick a pin in it, it just went straight cross field into the net. Absolutely ridiculous. But the point is that your mystic ball is still working, Stumpy. You talked about there being a tied game, late minute or overtime, and Tokyo Verdy having the advantage. I need to know what's going to happen in game 3.
I mean, shockingly, something that I feel a lot of Reddit don't quite believe is that I'm quite good at my job. Sometimes no, I have been known to be wrong. I have gifted it every now and then.
That's a verb.
It is a verb, and it can mean anything that you want. It just comes down to what each team has seen
so far.
Double taps are exactly what Tenhao has shown off so far, and that is not a good touch defensively. If there was an immediate follow-up from Bumpy Pumpy where Old Pigs can have a teammate following up nice and high, sure, not too bad, at least playing for the 50, then let it drop down for the clear. But with nobody following, you've got to expect Tokyo Verdy are going to want to take their aggression out in this third, and for them, hopefully final game.
Ladies and gentlemen, open your textbook. I mean, I guess I'm allowed to say Gibbs your textbooks and look up the definition of double touch and you'll see that clip right there from Tenhao. You can say there was no defenders, but that was mighty clean there. No dirt on that. It's just a simple sink in, and that's going to be difficult. I think much of what made game 2 so close was Bumpy Pumpy striking first, and you see here Burn a little bit awkward, just flicks it away in a rush. The hastiness, the lack of composure is coming through, and Maru, he's coming through with another double touch.
Needlessly good. Once again, look at Maru's placement on this ball. Onto the backboard, then I see a top corner there with no ball in it. I reckon I'm going to change that.
It's just deposited in, and he just no change needed. Got the perfect amount, and it's 2-0 in the series. It's 2-0 in Game 3 in Tokyo Verde. They just look so good when they're playing like this.
Yeah, they look spectacular because now it's Tokyo Verde with confidence, and Pumpy, they're going to need to do a lot to try and break through that facade. Not even a facade, just that personality that they seem to have adopted. Realise Alspin, can he double tap it? He wanted to do something more there as well. He wants to get the double tap with the ceiling reset as well, just to really one-up his teammates.
Exactly, he feels like he's missing out. He's yet to have his double touch. He's had 2 flip resets that were beautiful in the previous series, but no double touch. Like, come on, what are you doing? Step it up. We're obviously expecting better as we see some great defense there from Olpix, who literally saving that one on the goal line, is keeping Pumpy in the series as Tokyo Verde have just set up shop in the orange side of the field. Olpix just completely cleared out the offense though, and yet you see they still can't get it off defense until now, but the possession is lost again. They can compete for this in the midfield, but accidental double touch again. It's messy, it's clumsy, it's not working. It's just definitely not working as much as they need right now.
Yeah, it's Tokyo Verde's positioning where we spoke about it when they were playing against Zephyrs earlier. They are so aware of everything their opponents are capable of, and also not just that, what their preferences are, it seems like, for the play. They will know that, say for example, Burn wants to be finding a teammate, and so then they will cover that angle. Not that time though. Olpix to receive, Olpix to score.
Look at this pass from Burn. It's had to be weighted so well, and indeed he gets it. That window past Tenhau was closing fast, and yet Olpix sneaks it through, and we're back. Not within 2, but 1 here. 2:21 on the clock. This is getting a mighty bit close, and what a comeback it would be to prove to themselves and to prove to the region and the well if Pumpy can come back in this, not series, but just this game. There's the flip reset coming through from Maru. But the fact they're coming back despite the immediate early 2-goal deficit says a lot about their mental fortitude.
Tell you what is the most impressive thing that I've seen about this team. Tenhau did not have the flip reset. Did he have the flip reset there? Is that how he got that back in? Did he just touch it?
And he's been wrestled around in the corner. It's a great save. He does not have a flip. He sort of pinches it with the wall though. It was incredible.
Oh, the only way that was better is with a flip reset, and even then that would have made it 1% better. I don't care. The fact that he pinched it and just stayed in control despite being bumped to then get another goal.
Recovery.
Cheeky.
Unbelievable. You can't insult him ever because he's just going to have all the comebacks. He just came straight back into that play when you figured he'd surely be out of it, and time stops for a moment as we watch them not concede. Pumpy have somehow kept it out despite being nearly temporary own goalers, not for the first time today. And we remain with a 2-goal deficit here. 90 seconds on the clock in Tokyo Verde. They are looking like they want 4. They are looking dangerous. But you see Pumpy with such limited boost are trying their best, and you see Burn just got stabbed by that midline. In fact, he's gone back for it, but it was denied by Maru. Poor Burn missed that boost, went back for it, and then got beat to it. I can't help but notice how painful that was.
I mean, it's Tokyo Verde now playing how they want to play and utilising every, I was speaking earlier, every crumb of knowledge that they have gained about Pumpy. But it's also Pumpy putting up a really good fight. Like going through to Game 3 and it's still being very competitive. Don't you dare own goal there. Okay, I was complimenting you all, pigs. Don't make me regret it. The fact that they have been competitive throughout this entire series, and the fact that they have pushed Tokyo Verde to the edge, realistically, time and time again. It's been a 3-1 and a 3-2. This game to be a 3-1 again, unless anything changes. It's been great. Pumpy are going to be a menace in that lower side of the bracket.
Please. Nice. Pause champ. Right now, Burn has tugged that one in from close range. I was worried he was going to slam it into the post, but realised his half flip definitely in question there. That was not exactly ideal. I think he could have got back in time for it, and so maybe a bit of a crack in the armour you can see from Tokyo Verde. Don't want them to have a late slip up, but I certainly do, because I want Game 3 overtime as Burn. He's going to try and take us there, but he's going to get a demo in the air. I have no idea how he lived that collision, but clearly he just feels different as it's trying to be sunk at the near post and bottom corner, but it's not going to to find the mark in the final 10 seconds. Tenhau is going to get it downfield here. He's going to not get the 50 though. It's slammed down by Optic. The missed touch from Xiaolong. He's looking for the bump. It's touchdown though. And bumpy. It was so painfully close that they will be swept in the winners' final.
I'm gutted. I don't. Tokyo Verde, you know, it felt like they were going to win anyway, so I'm fine being biased towards Bumpy in the last 20 seconds. That was so close for Bumpy to bring it back. Couple of excellent saves coming out from Tokyo Verde. But in the end, the series going how we all expected. 3-0, we have our first grand finalists, and Bumpy are going to be a real nuisance down in the lower finals.
Tap to pay with Visa. It's that fast. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Well, Bumpy Pumpy said, Bombarimas, we'll try our best. But their best was not enough as Tokyo Verde looked to emulate what Tekkas did in the Argentine region yesterday and 3-0 sweep their way to the grand finals of the closed qualifiers here in the Intel World Open Japan. I'm Ira Leakey's Digital Bacon, and look, we've got to give our respects to Bumpy Pumpy. Just leagues better than what we saw against Doggo. You are absolutely right, playing up to their opponents, but that's the thing. They were playing up to their opponents, and Tokyo Verde still with the quality to see them through.
Well, that's it. As soon as we came into this, I was talking to James, of course, in the back room, was like, they're coming out with so much more pace into this series, and that made me instantly worried, because that means they are not confident enough to slow down the game, make it slower than what Tokyo Verde wants to play at, bring it down to something they're more comfortable with. No, instead they're going up to their opponent's pace, that means they don't really have a counter strat to their opponents, and that's scary. I'm looking to Xiaolong, I'm looking to him on this Bumpy roster as the only man, meaning the only team that can take down Tokyo Verde. I think he's the only one that can formulate a strategy with his teammates, and they've just been 3-0'd.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the wisest in the region. Again, a reminder that he's 25 years old. Pretty old, actually, for a Rocket League player. And you look at 22, 23 as maybe the upper bracket when it comes to RLCS.
I just turned 26 last week.
Yes, I'm 27 this year, so I mean, this, But hey, another thing is, like, Xiaolong is not on this roster. They've been picked up by New Org, of course. Mycan might actually be dropping out of the competition. That lower bracket round 1, that's going to game 5. So we'll bring you the updates when they come. But in the meantime, let's have a look at just one of the best pitch goals you will ever see here.
Oh yeah, let's bring this up on the teleprompter over my shoulder, and well, as always, let's let it run on through first, because this was just out of nowhere. I mean, on the broadcast, this is coming from Burns, and then suddenly Xiaolong's out of nowhere. Like we said, an absolute wizard, but as we pull it back into the replay, you get a better idea. Burns taking it on through, and then the pinch to rocket that ball to net. An insane play right there, and one that was absolutely spectacular to be able to see and just witness, because it's such a rare occurrence, but shows the synergy of this team. And again, why I think Bumpy is the only squad to be able to take down Tokyo Verde is because you need that creativity at the same time.
And look, it's actually quite a good thing that the last thing that we were deep diving into was that over the top of the defense burn goal versus Doggo, right? That was bad defense, because that sort of thing shouldn't be happening. That's one player with one speculative shot with no one at home. This was undefendable, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically, no one's going to account for a double commit, because that's what it is.
It is effectively a double commit, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's so unorthodox to send 2 players up for that ball. Quite often, you expect to send a player downfield. The best that, Burn was probably looking for was a 50-50 up in the air there, which could have thrown it sideways and into a weird direction to which you react afterwards. After maybe you can force it to push it down his opponent's half a little bit, but that's neither here or there. To send the second player on in to force an issue is bold, and it's so well calculated. I'm pretty sure in quick chat we had it turned off, of course. You saw calculated ping across in Japanese for the players, of course, because it gets translated, but for us, we didn't get the chance to see their reactions to it. I wish we could, because that was an absolute screamer. But talk about an absolute screamer,
I was about to say, breaking news, Zafers have taken down Doggo. So Mycan, bye-bye. Battle Lane, bye-bye. Nemoto, bye-bye. Zafers, the fresh talents in the scene, have been able to 3-2 them and send them tumbling out the competition. Some might say Bacana. Impossible, but nothing is impossible here in the Intel World Open, and they head up in another new matchup today versus Bumpy Pumpy.
I'm scared.
You're scared?
We could get a repeat of Argentina yesterday, and that terrifies me. I do not like to see 3-0 sweeps through a bracket, but it's right. I mean, we've already seen Zafers play up against Tokyo Verde. We've seen Bumpy Pumpy, and now to see that Zafers have taken down Doggo?
Yep.
And that Doggo, Bumpy Pumpy series was quite close. Like I said,
look, let's try and put a positive spin on this, because let's take this first one, right? It was harsh for Zafers. They got, I'd say, bordering on embarrassed by Tokyo Verde, just not even going out of third gear for me, and then literally scrimming in the third game. Bit of disrespect on that front. But here's the thing, you go away, you face arguably the third seeded team in this competition, and you beat them in a best of 5. That is a huge, huge momentum swing for them, and will hopefully embolden them, give them the confidence to give us a good series against Bumpy Pumpy. I wasn't entirely sold on Doggo Bacon. I think the fact of the matter is that you have Bumpy Pumpy making whiffs, 2 own goals. I mean, is that really indicative of a side that should be beating Zephyrs at this point when they can't even overcome that?
So do we think then Zephyrs just were not ready at the start?
Perhaps, yeah.
Perhaps
mean,
now, like with the experience taking down Doggo, if they can go on and take down guys over at Bumpy Pumpy, which we're just saying straight up, I think is too early for them. This is a team that's not experienced enough, and it would show incredible growth, precedented growth. Like, a massive shout out to the Intel World Open to allow these guys under that pressure to be forged into a stronger team. But again, Bumpy Pumpy is a team I think can take down Tokyo Verde. It's going to be a tough graft, but it's Shalon to lead the charge to create those incredible situations like that pinch with Burn, because that is Shalon coming up for it. There is no way as a player on the board there you're shouting to Shalon to come and pinch it with you. No, Shalon to see the situation and to jump at it, to grasp it with both hands willingly. I mean, what's the story? What a story if Zephyrs were to come back and take down Bumpy Pumpy to make the whole lower bracket run. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, Bacon, I'm going though. I trust you. I hear you. Yes, Bumpy Pumpy should be the team to take down Tokyo Verde, but they haven't been the team thus far. RLCSX show match completely wiped the floor with them. Yes, it was pretty close in that last series, but it's still a 3-0. For my money, they need a new challenge, and I'm not sure whether that's to come from Zephyrs. I don't think either of these teams, honestly, have the experience, the mechanical skill, whatever you want to call it. I just don't think they have enough je ne sais quoi to get past Tokyo Verde. I think this is an unbeatable team for me right now. That said, I'd rather see Zephyrs go up against them, give them a new challenge to work with, rather than Bumpy Pumpy, who has already been thrown down to the lower bracket rather convincingly.
Me saying, realise when it came in and started the day, if you dropped him in OCE, he'd be in the top 16.
Yeah.
If you drop Tokyo Verde, as they are, with the performance they've shown us today, that's easy a top 10 team. I would agree. Within OCE, maybe even higher, who knows. That's the level that Asia, without any outside help, is able to reach. And again, massive shout-outs to APL to be able to give those guys the growth platform. There's also other tournaments within, of course, Asia and in particular Japan, like when we look to the Gulliver Cup and all of that being put on. So they do have some internal help.
Huge money on the line there as well. So it's not like we're talking about
$1,000 just on a Japan-only tournament. Crazy stuff. But that just shows these guys are ready to play at the world stage. Yes, it may only be one team that is ready to go over and, like I said, take down OCE. But I want to see it. And I first off want to see them face up against the rest of mainland Asia. But of course, what I want to see right now is this next match coming on up. Let's start breaking this down.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tokyo Verde, we can talk about them all day, but this next upcoming match is for the honor of facing them in the grand final. Stumpy, Tylacto, back to you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that a lot, mate. We are going to be having a look at Bumpy Pumpy versus Zephyrs. And I think the biggest question mark that those fantastic guys on the desk were having earlier on is this a different Zephyrs to the one that we saw get utterly dismantled by Tokyo Verde? Because they beat Doggo, a team that looked good, 3-2.
I'm still trying to digest it. It's an incredible result from them, and it maybe could be a sign for change, because this is the first time that we're going to see these two teams face off on stream, Stumpy, but it's not the first time they've faced off in these tournaments. They played each other in both tournaments, did these two, both tournaments, like I say, in the first qualifier, they played each other. Bumpy Pumpy, they won it 2-0 in the series. I just wanted to emphasize how Zephyrs might have figured something out, because it was in both qualifiers that they played Doggo, who they just beat 3-2, and then in the qualifiers, they lost to them to both times. This is a different Zephyrs.
The one thing that I would say, though, is that Bumpy Pumpy looked very good versus Tokyo Verde. Look, you're going to look at the scores afterwards and say, Stumpy, it was a 3-0, you daft idiot. No, shut up. Click on it, have a look at the scores, have a look at the VODs. Tell me that Bumpy Pumpy didn't look great. There were times where they were just being utterly outplayed by Tokyo Verde. It's fine. everyone in Japan does get outplayed by Tokyo Verdy. That's okay to expect. I think Bumpy Pumpy here, from what we saw from Xaphers earlier on, have got the clear advantage. I'd love to be wrong. I would love for Xaphers to come out of it, not be shaken by their utter loss to Tokyo Verdy, and hopefully beat Bumpy Pumpy. I just don't see it. I think that, like, especially Burn came alive in that previous series.
Yeah, it's a fair point you make, really, because in terms of their last 3 matchups, 2 of which were in the APL Japan Nationals, right? It's 8-1 in games in favour to Bumpy Pumpy, so your money is safe with them. But will it be when it matters here in this lower finals? We're going to head into it, game 1, and how much have this Xaphers team got? They've just come off a game 5 win.
And that's going to be confidence inspiring for all of these teams. As soon as you get past the threat of Tokyo Verdy and then you're battling out to have the honour of losing to them in the grand finals, you've got to go into a game 5 and having that be a competitive series. It's going to be a palate cleanser. It's going to give you a taste of what the series can look like and what ultimately victory tastes like. It's a shame they've had to say goodbye to Doggo so early on in the competition, but it's such a strength for Xaphers to come into this as far as I heard Ari say earlier on, the lowest seeded, as it were, team coming in.
Yeah, they were the final team to qualify, and both times, both qualifiers, they tried to make a good lower bracket run, and the second time lucky, they got it, but no luck about it. They are here and have earned their spot in the lower finals, and they've got to be playing at their very best, as well as sent down, and hopefully, I think it's over the bar, but the finish should come through, and the Xaphers, they will take the lead.
Brilliant start coming out for Xaphers too. Arch sending it high above the final defender. And just very calm, very collected finish from him in the end. Only took 1 minute and 5 seconds to do so. And Xaphers starting off that scoring. It's a time where I would, because that goal was beating one defender, it's definitely an easy fix for Bumpy Pumpy. Don't let that happen too much. On the backboard, Lil Plasma, don't miss too much.
A little bit dangerous as they were all static and watching the ball, but nothing ending up coming on target here as Bumpy Pumpy looking for a quick response, but not able to get it here. You see, Sata didn't quite get his block there. Maybe the patience is going to pay off for Olpix, but no, it will not. He's sort of got caught up on the ball and he's going to take the ball up to the ceiling here. He's looking for the delayed flip from the ceiling shot, but there's big save coming out from Arch.
There's still this continued attack from Bumpy Pumpy. Look at that air dribble Burn. Feeling like he wants to put the heat underneath all of Xaphers, who have been stuffed back into their own back fifth, if anything.
Yeah.
The last minute or so. Great defense from them to keep the lead.
Sets has done a good job of that 50, but big win out on the defense by Shalon. In fact, it's going to be sent long, but not on target. Arch is back on the defense again. You see the direct infield Bumpy Pumpy. You find it yourself. Their willingness to commit to the passing plays has been scintillating at times when they have connected and hit the mark. But their most recent memory, right, will be very much not hitting the mark and being swept 3-0 in the winner's final. But they are going to get the equalising goal here, and look what caused it.
Yeah, coming in with that pass from Olpix, it's again another fantastic infielder. I love those passes. Again, it seems to be such a staple of the Japanese game to have those passes come in. The issue being, as soon as someone realises that, and as soon as a team can just learn to intercept and don't challenge the initial man, there's no point. He's going to want to offload it as soon as possible to a teammate. See who he's going to pass to, and then work your way in to block there. That is the secret ingredient that I feel even Tokyo Verdy have realised, but they just pass it better than anyone else, so they don't need to block other players' passes.
It all starts with striking fear into your opposition that you're going to do something direct with yourself, an individual play, a threatening shot, because that's what causes your opponents to back off and give you space. And what better way to use and punish for that than finding your teammate in that space? And immediately the shot is so many magnitudes of times more difficult to save, and well, that equaliser was never getting saved. It carved straight open for an open net.
Now the defense starting to be pushed again from Xaphers. Good send long, Lil Plata finding a teammate down the wing as well. Pasata, look at his positioning. So much confidence to put his way out there. Look at that movement. Out behind Olpix too.
was so perfect. That pass coming blazing off the wall, and the weight of it, like the most satisfying through ball ever. Olpix couldn't get himself to the block, and a rocket of a shot into the open net, which you can't blame for being open. That counter-attack was one of the fastest I've ever seen, and now Zafers have got their lead back.
And it was that perfect pass down, to be honest. That's what made it. Like, having it just be such perfect pace as well, so the speed from the initial pass can be utilised in the shot. That's exactly what you want from your teammate. Brilliant vision from Zafers, well-earned lead.
Zafers, I think they might want to expand on that heading for the final minute, as Arch, they've been uncontested here. Chilling in his midfield has sent it off the wall. Weirdly enough, the space is given back as a lovely pass from Olpix, except Arch, he reads it perfectly, and he's now got the boost steal. He got the ball as well for a second while it's wrestled around in this corner. Setzer is there. It's just going to send it straight towards Olpix, and you see a lot of respect given being from both these teams. Rarely are we seeing double commits on the challenges. We are seeing a good 50 come out here, and it's very much in Bumpy's favour, and the bounce back is picked up nicely by Burn. He's been dangerous all day long, but he's not going to have enough boost to really work that ball, and maybe it's going to open up for Olpix. The shot comes through and the double commit on the save, but that's a saviour medal for Arch, and they stay 2-1 up.
Down onto Cap, sends it high. Can he get it up above the keeper? Does manage to. Burn. Shot on target, touched sideways from Plasma. Looking considerably better than he did in the series versus Tokyo Verde. He was maybe the player that I had the biggest doubts about, but he has looked fantastic. With a miss though. Olpix with a bouncing shot, and Bumpy bounce their way to an overtime.
It's the late equaliser special from Bumpy. Here's that costly whiff from Arch. He's been so reliable for the Zafers when he's been needed usually, but right there, when it mattered, he slipped up on the banana, except I couldn't see the banana, mate. That's just a costly whiff. 2-2 is the scoreline, and you have to say off of that, mentally, momentum-wise, Bumpy could maybe even steal it here, and they just had to stand and watch that ball hit the floor and pray that no one put it in.
I felt like that was Bumpy just scoring there, like, so often. That's a lifeline for Zafers. They need to look out for their guardian angel here and make sure that this overtime is going to be worth it.
A little bit dangerous there. There was a whiff uncharacteristically on the side of Bumpy's defense here, as they're going to try and shut Arch down early, but he has other ideas and finds the setter on the other field. I say the same field, other side of the field really, as it's spilt off the wall and shot more directly, is doinked up by Plasma. Will the shot come through from Becerra? He has made it, but made the block has Burn, and he's going to try and get another here. You see how he just bounced back the opponent? He was such good on the 50 that he basically bumped Arch through the ball. That was so strange.
It was like a Newton's cradle.
Yeah.
Sending all of the energy through the ball into him, and then being fine on the other side of things. Shame we couldn't get the pass in the end. Great pass from Olpix though. Burn on the cross.
There it is.
Shalon, look at him look.
Such a difficult shot when you've got two goalkeepers in the net, but he strikes it true, and Becerra still landing, couldn't get back up to it. Arch couldn't get across to it, and another late equaliser into overtime goal here in game one. Bumpy taking advantage.
They could have had it without overtime as well. So close to scoring without, but it ended up coming down to Zafers making one too many errors. They had 14 shots for Bumpy, and the saves only totaling 5 for Zafers. The fact that so many could go on target without a response from, just wide of the target, so realistically, the shots from Bumpy needing to be a little bit more clinical, without Zafers getting rewarded with saves from them. Very, very scary moment, but the team play at the end will secure that first game for Bumpy, who have also won the name wars.
That's the most important battle on the pitch, of course. Most importantly there, the question for me is how well can Zafers respond to that, especially after being up. It hurts that little bit more when you threw away a lead with such a costly whiff in the dying seconds of the game. You never want it to be like that, and we saw it took them too long to respond and adapt to Tokyo Verde in the first series. Of course, this is a different caliber of opposition, and yes, they must have bounced back and forth in their 5-game series against Doggo, but you see it here. The confidence on defense, Xiaolong, he's just going to get a freebie.
Oh, I'm struggling to compliment that. That's awful, quite frankly. You can't sugarcoat it. He wasn't even close. Becerra, That's truly abysmal, and I'm sorry that I'm having to tear into you for it, but you're going to need to be so much more clinical than that. It's not even about being clinical. That's about having a basic knowledge of how to hit the ball.
I mean, it's just a bit of a running off the wall, really, I would say. They definitely had a disagreement, and there's no disagreement on the Bumpy side. They are up 1-0 in the series, and they are up 1-0 in Game 2. Exactly what they'd like to try and put this Safers team in the mud, which is, well, they're assisting them right now. In the previous series, we saw Bumpy, yeah, but they're no stranger to putting themselves in the mud with the own goal. But right now, they're just playing solid, and with the amount of offense they put up last game, 14 shots, you mentioned it yourself, I feel like they're about to see something similar of the same, unless Safers can really put themselves back on the front foot. But you see this, and how often are you going to see this? All three orange players huddled around the orange net.
Yeah, you could throw a blanket over them because they are just, there's no distance whatsoever. Good play it out though from Plasma. Needs a teammate to follow up with Shaolon getting one touch. Not quite though, faking Arch. Can almost get a touch on the ball. I'm so used to saying Archie that I'm having to hold myself away from complimenting a UK player instead, which of course will be coming later today. Make sure you tune in for that.
Nearly, Musty was dangerous, but didn't quite be able to follow it up. Now, Pumpy looked to take possession, but credit to Plasma again. He's done some good disruption here, and he's going to get a demo to his name as well, as Peseta couldn't make the challenge or the ball, so just completely identifies himself as a roadblock, and by driving in front of the Pumpy player, he actually ended up retaining possession for his team, but unfortunately they are back and are on the back foot as Arch required at the back post is going to sort that 50 onto the ceiling, and they will break away, but more importantly they can't seem to consistently break away and keep possession in the process.
I mean, it was just that, yeah, like you said about maintaining possession, you don't always need to go for the ball. Sometimes go for the man. Make sure that you can give your teammates a little bit of time. If you just play shadow offense, shadow defense, anything off the ball can be as vital, if not more vital than anything on the ball. But with a double miss coming in, suddenly chance for Zapers. Good block by Burn. Shaolon can't quite beat him to the ball. Burn rotates back around with 75 boost, and Olfix go up, sent high, Setter, but only Shaolon up again. Another free ball for Bumpy, and then Arch sending it to Burn. These touches nearly lead to a goal, and they will in the end. Just loose, sloppy play from Zapers.
It was just watching the dominoes into each other, falling and falling. Plasma's touch not staying low enough, and the priority on the ball and where it is going was just not high enough. Bumpy, well spaced. They are gonna punish again, and we have to compliment how professional they've been at that. And suddenly it's 2 and threatening to be 2 in the series as well.
It's definitely a big difference between these teams at the moment, where I feel there are micro problems with Bumpy. That's fine, like don't worry about it too much, you're still winning the series and this game. But then there are micro problems and macro problems with Zapers. There are the big misses, there are the double commits as well. They're your macro problems. On the micro side of things, it's just not quite a great touch. It's mispositioning ever so slightly, so then your teammate can't quite come in. It's not reading the ball as ideally, and therefore sending it to an opponent when you should just be clearing it cleaner. With the combination of both, it's not a winning formula, and there's certainly big issues to move around for Zapers. Bumpy keep playing their game. I'm seeing not much more that they need to do to just get a convincing 3-0.
The thing is, those micro problems in Rocket League stack up so quickly, and they so easily lead to another, and before you know it, just like that previous goal, it ends up with you conceding. It was a nice infield attempt there from the Zapers, and they are going to be okay here on the defense for now. They need more of that aggression, and we're going to see that through Peseta here, who's trying to start offense into the final minute, but Olpix was very calm, composed on the defense and rotated back fast, and he's managed to send it fast forward. Burn won't quite read the... What? Outs? What have I just watched?
Wait, I thought that was 2 orange players.
I also do not question my eyes. No, I think he's up for it. Oh, okay, that was like the colour. I also thought that was like a team pinch into the net. Maybe our eyes. Maybe we need to get our eyes tested. I mean, I have got my glasses on. In fact, I'll stop and clean them right now. That's 3-0 Bumpy. And credit to Olpix. That was a rifle of a shot.
I wish my eye problems could be fixed by just cleaning some glasses, if only. That was, I think it came down to then just the one of the defenders being above the ball. It didn't quite hit him, but it was that orange trail. And Olpix, just great positioning from him, could send it into the top corner of the goal. Final 30 seconds, 3-0 for Bumpy. Third game, formality, or will it be a fight back for Zafers?
I think they've got some left in the tank. With how they've won a 5-game series, surely there has to be, or maybe there'll just be some... I mean, you see it right at the end here, like there was some mass, very visible confusion from us on the previous goal. There's no confusion about that, just well done by Arch and Shaolon. Don't know why he thinks he can save that ball from there. Paseta with a very nice strike, but probably a consolation goal at this point.
Somewhat futile, but definitely confidence-inspiring. Chance for Zafers to work off that momentum. They can say to themselves, look, we scored the final goal in that last game. Like, it wasn't a sweep. Like, a sweep is so much harder to try and get your mind around, especially confidence-wise, to work your way in. Burning seconds off the clock. Brilliant play from him to close out that second game. And it will be 2-0 to Bumpy, trying to go through with the honour, as we said it throughout, of being utterly smashed in the grand finals by Tokyo Verdy.
I believe in the close grand finals, or the closer grand finals.
Sorry,
I'm trying to convince myself here. They deserved a game already in the winners' final, but I don't know if Zafers are going to get a game at this rate in this one. If you look at the trends, they just lost 3-2 in overtime, and now they just lost 3-1. Are we going to see a 3-0 to round out the 3-0? I mean, I could see it, but with how that late ending at the last minute or so was actually quite promising from the Zafers, and we've seen promising play from them at varying points today, but the problem is, the trend that we've seen is it just hasn't come together enough when it matters, and quite frankly on defence, it's fallen apart too much.
Yeah, for sure. It's silly errors as well on defence. That's why to me it's so annoying.
Yeah.
If it was big problems, if it was always two players double committing, it's like, right, well, this is clearly an endemic issue. But look at that, to open up the scoring, to get the corner shot over the top of the defender and to get that dribble and utilising, I didn't even realise that was the touch from an orange player too. Great play from Burn to start it off.
He did it on such limited boost and timed his jump for the shot so well. Driving off the bottom of that corner curve, it's so easy to sort of have that weird takeoff where not all your car wants to go the same way at once, but he timed that to perfection. The strike sort of summed it up even better, but break off the defense here as well. A complete unit have this bumpy team being, and in fact winning it out on the defense. It is another dangerous shot, but Plasma here is going to make that big save. As Zafers on the big stage with the opportunity to represent your country and compete against the rest of the continent. You can understand the nerves that are going through these players, but the point is, Bumpy are handling it much better.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Honestly, Plasma, to me, that defensive play, that's the best that we've seen from him. And he's been playing okay. After the series that had somewhat of a shocker versus Tokyo Verdy earlier on, he's been playing very well in this matchup. I think he's probably been the strongest player on Zafers, if I'm being honest. But I was saying earlier about how well Bumpy have been playing. And the way that they've been playing around that defense. If there was issues that came down to, like I said, double commits from two players all the time, so right, that's clearly a bigger problem. You're probably not going to fix it in this series. Fine. But when it's just whiffs from the backboard, that's when I want to see more from Zafers. Clean that up. Take your time a bit more. You're obviously at a level where you can do that. You are an excellent team. Make sure that you're showing it off and try your hardest, because this is your final chance for this game. You need the reverse sweep.
Literally will be game over and goodbye to Zafers if they cannot find the goal in the next 3 minutes. A nice double touch attempt will come through from Plasma. There was, I presume, an attempted pass. It was actually quite a spicy one, but I don't think anyone on the field was expecting it. His teammates included. Is now required on the defense again is Arch. He's done a great job of getting it to the halfway line unanswered. Plasma here pick up his saviour medal before half-time. Shaolon's so patient. He's going to just pluck that ball past two. He cannot get it past the third here. It's cutting out the infield is Arch, and Burn has to be on the back foot here. He's tried to get it past one, but he's lost possession in the process. The centre, he is up here, but it's just not quite going to be it. Shaolon, he is going to save that, no problem. Arch slams it to the backboard. The read isn't there. The shot comes through, but it's back onto the crossbar. It's still dangerous in front of the net, but the save comes through from Burn. The shot, the save, it doesn't. It goes through. Arch, he will equalise.
Oh my gosh, my heart rate that entire time, just begging Zafers to finish it off. Burn ends up getting it in central. The shot from Arch had to be so pixel perfect, and I don't really think it was, and yet it found its way in.
I think it might have actually hit the post. Was it not for the touch from Burn? The question is whether it would have gone in off that post. But crazy entertainment here in game 3. And Arch, my goodness, he's got his shooting boots up and he's really tied the laces here. He's got 2 in a matter of seconds.
Papers, this is what I wanted to see. That pre-jump is filthy.
It's ridiculous.
That was so much cognition and so much mystic meggery that he was able to get himself up so early in that play. Outstanding stuff. Olpix wanting to prove it the other way rather. And Xiaolong missing a rare opportunity.
Such a juicy floating pass from Paseta as well. It just floated in front of the bumpy net and they're just like, oh, hang on a minute, we should maybe go for that. And then it was already too late. He pre-jumped so hard and the shot was beautiful in that dominance of Arch. And what a turnaround from the Zafers. We question whether they did have it left in the tank, but boy, have they filled up with something else right now. They haven't put diesel in the petrol, no. They're firing on all cylinders right now, and will it be enough to get at least 1 game? And if they can get this 1 game, why not get another 2? But what a requirement and what a performance that is going to take.
Yeah, brilliant start if they can just get that one. Focusing each game as it comes and looking so much more inspired. Xiaolong sending it high. It's Lil Plasma catching the back wall. Not a great touch though, but again, a chance for Bumpy to score, gone amiss.
You're getting flashbacks to game 1 though, and it was a 2-1 lead for Zafers late into the final minutes. We know Bumpy do love a late equaliser, and they'll be looking for another one here as they are trying to make the passing plays happen, but Burn not on the same wavelength here. He's just playing it safe, but playing it safe isn't going to cut it when they do need this goal, and out of boost it should be picked up by Paseta, and it is. Olpix has to run it long, and Arch is able to intercept as it's contested again in the midfield, but Paseta is back when it matters, and he's going to get the corner boost as well. He's going to get it past 2 players. In fact, there's only 1 left. He's looking for the dunk, but Xiaolong will not let him have it, and Olpix helping out on the defense, but blocked again from Paseta. The ball is still hot and dangerous. It's cleared for now, but it's sent back in, and then until that read comes through, they were still under pressure, and in fact, the Zafers are now. Xiaolong can't force that one, but Burn is 50 blocked as well. 15 seconds here, the shot again not materialising. The block from Olpix, it just can't be put on target. Final 10 seconds now, it's bouncing off the backboard, but the clears, they keep coming through.
But Burn was just sitting stationary, central, for ages. Didn't decide what he wanted to do. Zafers' defense holding so strong as Burn can keep it high. Down the wing, Xiaolong needs to get a touch. Will he be able to?
Surely not.
Just about. Paseta touches it down. Zafers secure a single game on their road to the reverse sweep.
Indeed, it's a long road, but they've taken the first few and very important steps here. It's the first game we've had the honour of seeing them win here on the stream, and knowing that everyone is watching right now as they compete for the right to represent Japan. That's gotta feel good. We have all seen that. We have just witnessed them come back from down and honestly out. That was such a good comeback. The fact that they've just lost 2 games on the bounce to then concede the first goal in game 3, that's just a massive sting, like the sour taste in the mouth. It really is painful, and yet they just got back up. They dealt with it professionally, and now that they've proved to themselves that they can do it, why not carry on?
They fixed a lot of the macro, is what I saw. They had a few chances where, there were still some little issues in there, don't get me wrong, that was not a perfect game. But it was Arch, man. Like, Arch looked phenomenal. The fact that he got 1 goal and then pre-jumped about 10 seconds after the kickoff for the second goal is just confidence in bucketfuls.
We need to see a whole lot more of it. I'm worried that if he does make a couple macro mistakes, it might all fade for nothing. He's made a good clear across there towards his teammates and linking up. He was there with Paseta, who should be able to conserve possession here on this ball, but an early dunk from Xiaolong, who's been quietly putting in a very consistent, solid performance. As now it's Paseta on the end of a pass, and oh my goodness, is he on the end of it?
Technically a doink, I feel.
An air doink.
That's technically a doink. Look at this. Look at where it hits him.
Yeah, pretty clean, in fact. He was making sure to pose for the cameras as it went back and sailed into the back of the bumpy net.
He near enough winked at the camera.
Yeah.
I respect that. I liked it a lot. That is the first Japanese air doink that I've ever seen. And Zafers opening up the scoring. We said that they would need to be taking this series game by game on that basis, where they can't be thinking, oh my god, we need to win 3. Oh, that's so many games. That's 15 minutes that we need to be dominant for. But instead, they've done precisely the job that they need to do. Win one, go next.
Japanese air doink, as it was Paseta saying ka-chow there for that opening goal in the first minute, and there's a big save on the back line from Plasma. Hang on a minute, Arch at the other end, look at that counter-attack.
What is this turnaround? How has this happened? Lil's Plasma again assisting, and Arch to air roll to the right, realised a little bit too far, and then uses the momentum to head back to the left, gets a touch more power on it, sends it past that final defender. Zephyrs looking dangerous.
What a series we have on our hands. Bumpy were 2-0 up and up in game 3, looking for the sweep, but they might be victims of another type of sweep if they're not careful here. They do want to strike back in this game 4, but Burn, you see that over the crossbar and wide of the post, the follow-up shot. Suddenly the nerves are cooking and kicking in for Bumpy as they're cooking up a dish, but there's something wrong, not quite all the ingredients they've got in this. It's just going a little bit awry.
That play from Bumpy looks the same as it normally would, but like an off-brand version, where they were going for, a pass central from Olpix, but nobody was there this time. They went for the double tap play, but nobody could score it. Xiaolon, a brilliant shooting position, couldn't get it on target. Needs to be so much more clinical, much more clutch, because in those moments, that is what's going to be deciding this series. And Arch, he has turned on.
It's the 20p version with 0% sugar, because there was nothing sweet about it, but that shot as well. Likewise, the follow-up is going to be over the bar, but it's a big save required from Arch, and he rises to the occasion as he's been doing for the past 2 games, as Paseta now is trying to run it around the corner, but the clamp is starting to tighten from Bumpy. It's just that last time we saw that happen, an immediate counter-attack down the middle, and when that happens, you start to really worry about overcommitting.
Good send long though from Xiaolon, and it will find its way in. I feel that could be a confidence bringer, because it was, again, an iffy touch from Plasma. We saw that that's how they essentially lost a lot of their previous games, from weird little touches, those small errors building up into bigger macro errors, and then Xiaolon taking full advantage of it, especially seeing as he moved up so confidently, knowing that Lil Plasma was at a standstill, knew that the touch would not be going too far away.
No respect shown. He literally picked it up like a pass. You'd have thought they were on the same team temporarily. I personally like Paseta, who just sort of watched the shot from where he was, like, yep, I can't save that, and had to save that shot. He's done a great job at that. As it just sort of bounced around down off the crossbar and waited for the inevitable goal to be put in, which it was, and maybe it's going to happen again here. That pass from Olpix just completely carving open the Zephyrs defense.
I got bored of the store brand stuff. We're now onto the primo products. Look at that pass in from Olpix. It was ultimately, though, Burn in all the space that he required in the midfield, with both Zephyrs players on those side walls trying to pinch themselves into the middle. They couldn't quite do it, and that is a little bit disappointing. But when Burn has now got that confidence, when everybody on the pitch has scored or has had those vital passes to score, that's Bumpy getting themselves back into this series. One more game, bear in mind, and they'll be our grand finalists alongside Tokyo Verde.
Still on the front foot here. They have been for a couple minutes, and massive props to them. They were 2-0 down, but Zephyrs, that's a 2-goal lead that you've given up, and despite some good defense at times, that again is so painful. The question is, can they deal with this? They probably started thinking about the potential reverse sweep, and that slight distraction, that lack of focus has been punished here as we are heading into silver goal territory. Xiaolon is going to happily pick up possession. He's going to find Olpix on the other side of the pitch, and he sends it down into the corner as it's won out by Xiaolon again. It's forced round. He tried to reverse into a bump for Arch, but he didn't quite find the contact he was looking for, as that one is going to spill out for Xiaolon. It is going to be dangerous. Double commit on the save, but the save is made. Burn towards the centre. The shot comes through, and it's a last-ditch save from Plasma, and we stay at 2-2.
Plasma has been a new player, I feel, and especially in that second game, but in this one as well, he's done a brilliant job of making sure that he has got so much more clutch in those back-end situations, done brilliantly to do so, but Paseta missing on the back wall will require Arch to come in to cover him. The best player that I have seen on Zephyrs, sent high from Olpix to Burn. That old combo not quite working out this time. Xiaolon up high and clears it high too. Finds his teammate. Is Burn there to receive? Not quite. Cleverly rotates back round. Don't throw it away at the last 5 seconds.
Well, we could be headed for the second overtime of the series. Of course, Bumpy Pumpy were favourites and took that overtime. Will they do it again? If they get the next goal, they go to the grand finals to face off against Tokyo Verde. Zafers have to score to stay alive and force game 5. And I think they might. And they find the top corner through that man Plasma. And game 5 we will have.
Oh, it's a shame that was a double commit on the side of Bumpy Pumpy. But Lil Plasma takes his chance and rockets it top bins. I think, and I may be wrong, so I'm not writing down who's been scoring goals, is that the first goal that we have seen from Lil Plasma today?
Honestly,
I don't recognise that goal.
Right. You actually might be right. I have to get confirmation on that. I am only very much confirming the fact that was a 2-goal lead that they had overturned, and that was easy for your heads to go down at that point as head up on that lovely shot to open up the score, and you see the replay there. And immediately to double down, that must have got so much confidence in them, because even though they did give up that 2-0 lead, they weren't really shaken or stirred. Like a fine martini, it ended up being a great end with that overtime goal. And I think we're going to have a great end to this series as a whole.
Yeah, I think Zafers are looking very, very strong. And I'm going to be honest, I fully expected them to throw it at the end of that game. But to start off the scoring, Lil Plasma, presumably, doubles up his goal tally.
And that's a kickoff goal as well. Oh, and a force through. So much power behind the kickoff there, completely catching out Old Picks. And suddenly, after 3 seconds, Zafers again are the ones who strike first. And Bumpy Pumpy, they must be on DEFCON 5 right now.
It's a worrying moment for Bumpy Pumpy because of how well they have looked throughout the series, throughout the fact that Zafers are the bottom seed, but there's not a seed, but they are the
last team to qualify, so yeah.
To come in. They came in then through the lowers for that, and it's a very nervy moment for Bumpy Pumpy to be on the end of a reverse sweep, but also for Zafers to continue this outstanding push that they have managed to secure so far.
It's like a different team compared to earlier in the series and earlier in the day. It's actually ridiculous. And when you think about poor Bumpy Pumpy, who are being labelled as the number 2 team in the country and certainly want to perform to at least that level, when now they're just staring at the fact that they may be completely disappointing themselves and the expectation, the pressure that now is putting on their shoulders, the plays they make over the next 4 minutes are going to define how they feel about themselves as a team and their performances for months to come.
That ball, though, is sent long. It's now a chance for Burn to be getting a little bit of action on it. Xiaolong to the side wall, finds Burn again. Look at those offensive rotations. Burn just went from the right to the left, then bumps the keeper. And the Old Pig's getting in the way. Not quite. Definitely wants to, but open this time. Why is Burn committed on that ball? Is Xiaolong going to be there to shoot? He is, but brilliant block out. Zafers' defense holding strong.
Arch Dominus is just parking himself in front of the goal, but surely they can't hold on like this for over 3 minutes. Arch is going to get it past one, but he is going to pay with his life now as from the wall Xiaolong will go, and he continues the onslaught of the Zafers net. But that is one hell of a doink as they will continue to threaten with the most direct of counter-attacks, but that one not finding the mark, as maybe Xiaolong's shot will find the mark, and it will. Left side of the net, slotted in very tidily.
Brilliant shot in as well. Sees the Plasma's challenging right and the Arch is coming in from the right hand side. Left is the only answer. Slots it past 2, and despite going down with that early goal, the Bumpy Pumpy pressure has been huge.
What a match. Tied it back up in game 5, and immediately they're going to strike again. Soon after kickoff, Plasma is going to get it. The shot, and I think Arch was distracting the keeper, threatening the redirect. Xiaolong felt he had to wait. In fact, he had no boost. He just couldn't reach it.
Brilliant stuff. Love that. I love just seeing that Arch was there just in case the block came in from that final defender. But it was Plasma off the kickoff again. Bumpy Pumpy need to be more clinical.
I can't believe what I'm saying. This Zafers side have always fallen short at the final set of hurdles when it comes to the Japanese and Asian side. You think about them not making it to the playoffs in APL Nationals. So many times they've been in the shadow of these higher reputed teams. Bumpy Pumpy, one of them, are trying to keep their spot, but Zafers, they just will not go away. And Bumpy Pumpy, they need a goal sooner, a lot more than later, and the defensive inefficiencies are still there from Zafers, but they're still making the saves that matter. Peseta, he's made some shocking attempts at saves today, and you look at the blocks he's been making right now, it literally feels like they're different players.
I mean, I had a massive go. And then Arch, how does he squeeze that in off the floor? There was a defender directly in front of him, and the passing plays that managed to work around. Oh, the angle, the speed, that's what you get from a Dominus, mate. That's why everyone should be using a Dominus. Every shot looks better.
When Byrne trying to backflip to cover the back post, little did he know that somehow, with it coming down straight down, it would be shot across the net, and you don't need power when you've got that much placement. 3-1 is the scoreline, less than 2 minutes to get to, and we might be staring at quite the storyline for the Zafers.
Brilliant storyline. Tokyo Birdie, get trembling in your boots, lads, because whoever is going to be facing you, they're going to want to be representing Japan at the biggest stage they have ever had. But right now, it's 100 seconds, and there won't quite be 100 chances. Bumpy Pumpy needs to take every opportunity they have got to bring this game at least even.
Need to make them in the first place, and maybe they will, but the backboard save comes out from Arch, but the touch is out in front of the net, and Xiaolong is there again with the finish to the left side of the net.
Great touchdown as well. I mean, it was a shame that they managed to come off the defender as well. Arch has been so good previously. Had to just get that rush block. Could have done a lot better with it, but very awkward situation. Only one goal separating these two teams.
This is so tense if you're a Zafers fan. They've been so dangerous off kickoff, and they might be here again, but the flick away will come through from Olpix as the quick counter-attack is attempted, but they've seen that before from Xiaolong. Plasma held his ground and then immediately sent himself to space. I have no idea what he just did there, but he did indeed leave the ball as across to the corner it goes from Olpix. Bumpy Bumpy still need this pressure as the 50 ricocheting from side to side of the pitch. Who will win this second ball? It will be Byrne and it will be centre, but nobody really expecting it to go like that. Xiaolong now sends it backboard bound, but Plasma, he catches it, he stays behind that ball, forces the 50, but the demo comes through. Arch, he makes the touch pass, 2 players though.
Finally open at the other end, Plasma to shoot, goes far too high. Arch is unable to touch it, so on the way out tries to bump Olpix, doesn't manage to. Peseta, and just caught out as well. But look at this offensive positioning from Zafers. They want to just try and knock the wind and the shot out of everyone from 1 to 2. Xiaolong sniping bottom right, scoring the hat-trick and potentially saving his team.
A pass from Olpix and the worm burner from Xiaolong. That's such satisfying placement as 2 goalkeepers pre-jumping could not keep that shot out. A hat-trick hero here in Game 5. It's 3-3 and next goal wins it.
Xiaolong has been not without errors, but finally turning up in this final match. Olpix centre central again, as he is known to do, this time defensively. Byrne in the middle again. Arch finds a teammate, but Lil Plasma with a miss only opens it up for the reversing of Bumpy Pumpy. Can a counter fall in?
Oh my goodness, surely not. It is gonna be it. Xiaolong strikes again as the bump on the goalkeeper comes through. Overtime not required. Byrne, the bully, is gonna see it out as Zafers with 2 different 2-goal leads. It's all come for nothing, Stumpy.
Oh, that is heartbreaking. Zafers, the final chance here. That's gonna land though, and Bumpy Pumpy in the biggest turn of events, in the greatest reverse sweep blockage we have seen so far. Bumpy Pumpy come off the victors. Zafers on the edge of something miraculous there.
I feel so bad for the Zafers, but they can only blame themselves. Xiaolong, the striker, oh my goodness, he was clinical when it mattered under pressure, and he's going to return Bumpy Pumpy to that matchup against Tokyo Birdie. They made a match of it last time, but they're going to need a whole different kind of performance here if they're going to reset this bracket and win this close qualifier. Credit to Zafers, they made a great performance, possibly their best ever, but they are going home, and we'll have the grand finals after this break.
Panini for Simon.
Tap to pay with Visa. It's that fast. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Hello folks and welcome back to the Intel World Open Japan Closed Qualifier. I already joined by Digital Bacon, and I am 100% convinced, Bacon, that we just saw the most natural or the most concurrent and successive Nat 20s in a Rocket League game ever. I cannot believe the luck of this team, but of course, Zephyrs, it eventually ran out.
It did indeed. I mean, your streak of luck, like you said, can only last for so long. Bumpy as well. Not looking the most complete. Zephyrs were playing a risky game, it's got to be said.
Yeah.
There was one that could have done the job on a different day, and that's why it did look like luck. It's just because they're playing a very high-risk, high-reward game, but unfortunately, the reward was only 2 games out of the 3 needed. Bumpy going to be getting that chance to move on through to the grand finals, but realistically, are we convinced yet?
No, let's make it very clear. Could not have shared the emotions anymore with Tylacto and Stumpy there. I'm absolutely heartbroken because I mean, we've got to consider the story of the series, of course. Starting so good for Bumpy Pumpy, game 1, game 2, leading in game 3, and then in comes Aphers with that second wind of energy. They were playing a very defensive and then launching into a counter-attacking game in those early two encounters, sure, and it did work, but they had to sponge up so much pressure. But then they actually started to express themselves when their backs were against the wall. They knew that they had to score. They were 1-0 down, they had to score, managed to find that momentum, but at the end, game 5, they were leading as well. And just you could tell that something was going to collapse at some point. It was just at the worst time.
It was a house of cards scenario right there at the end. But again, Zephyrs, massive credit to these youngsters coming on through. Again, like we said, not that long ago, not even top 4 within the region. Now going to be able to go away and say top 3, which is a big step up. And again, we came into it and I said at the start of the day, I do not expect this team to come through and win. But I want to see that growth, and boy oh boy, did we get growth from the very start of the day to make it on through to this point. Zephyrs can go away with their heads held high, and well, a year from now, I look forward to seeing these teams rock the region.
But today is all about today, Bacon, and today I have seen a Bumpy Pumpy side that has not at one point looked convincing to me. I know, as somebody was rightly pointing out, there were some really nice plays. There's some really good ingenuity. I think Burn in particular, a standout player, and if it wasn't for Burn, let's make it absolutely clear, they were not going to win that match. And I don't think they're going to win this upcoming one either. I think Tokyo Verdy's got this as a canter, but Stumpy and Tylacto, what do you think?
I think that's a very good question, Ira League, because I think a canter is maybe a little bit generous. I'm hoping it's a little bit generous because Tokyo Verdy, whilst they've looked pretty incredible, they haven't looked perfect. And earlier on, Bumpy Pumpy actually did push Tokyo Verdy to at least a close 3 games.
They did. All 3 games were close, but in all 3 games, they conceded 3 goals. And I would love to be a Bumpy Pumpy believer. In fact, I always will be. I'm still praying they get at least a game and that one game can lead to more. But you have to say credit to Zephyrs for pushing them all the way. It wasn't the cleanest performance against them either.
Yeah, one thing that I will say that is going to sound mean, and I apologise to Zephyrs already.
Okay.
This is a better grand final, I think. This is a better situation for everybody involved apart from Zephyrs. Because Bumpy Pumpy just proved in the end to be a better team. They pulled Tokyo Verdy to a closer scoreline, and it does feel like there could be a game or 2 that could actually go against Tokyo Verdy. I couldn't say the same for Zephyrs, but this is going to be such a hard effort for Bumpy Pumpy if they want to be representing Japan at the mainland finals.
You open up with a very nice save from Burn required. It's a fair point you make, as much as it could be a sort of very different Zephyrs to what we saw earlier in the day, but they did concede 12 unanswered goals at the start of the series, and at the start of this series in the grand final. Yep, it's Ten Hao, and yep, it's a very tidy finish.
What a nice demo, and then it just so happens that the ball falls perfectly to him. From that pinch off the side from Maru, he was just like, oh, yeah, ball's here, alright, fair enough, yeah, I guess I'll take that, yeah, good stuff, cheers pal.
It's just, literally like Christmas wish list, and well, Maru's going to get a demo as well. We asked in the earlier series in the winners final that Bumpy Pumpy take some of the Tokyo Verdy players out, and it was effective when they did, but right now, they're the ones on the receiving end, although awkward defense off the backboard. You see, kind of surprised that Bumpy Pumpy had nobody going for that ball. In fact, 2 players were waiting for it, and whilst waiting for a loose touch there is the percentage play. You might as well have had someone go, because you never know if it could have ended up deflecting in, and I feel like it stems from having so much respect, and in that case too much, for this Tokyo Verdy side.
I mean, the best thing to do is, I completely agree, like, play an awkward ball, send it into those awkward corners, make it so it doesn't bounce perfectly off sidewalls. I mean, you're going to get beaten every day by Verdy. I say that as Mario misses, though. You may as well make it awkward and then see if you can send a man for the percentage play.
whether they can get that disruption that they need to get themselves on the road. They didn't score for a while in the winners' final, and Tokyo Verde haven't hesitated at all. You might wonder if the break in between series could have cooled them down. No, absolutely not. They're having a great time on that 5 evening over there in Japan. They're having a good time with it. What a good time it would be if they swept the entire bracket to qualify with the spot.
It would be mean, it would be cruel, but it would be just. You would not doubt anybody that would have said that at the start of the day. Like, oh yeah, Tokyo Verde, by the way, I'm a time traveller, and they swept it all. You'd be like, oh, cool, yeah, cheers. I guess that makes sense. But what happened in the other series?
Yeah.
So it's Bumpy trying to stop that eventuality and trying to be the butterfly effect to Tokyo Verde's inevitable probable victory.
We've already had an incredible losers final, so hopefully we haven't used up all the great series budget, and I'm thinking we might not, because Xiaolon, who has been scoring all day, is going to get a very unsolicited dunk right here.
Tenhao's turn there is very optimistic, where he didn't assume that Xiaolon was going to be coming in for the immediate challenge, and then when he ended up doing so, just caught completely unaware. Brilliant positioning by Xiaolon, forced them into awkward situations. We both wanted it, and now that's open, and now that's Xiaolon with a second.
Look at that shot from the corner, no hesitation, all confident, wins the race and then slams it home at the near post in the blink of an eye with the kickoff goal. Tokyo Verde have just been slapped across the face, and you can tell they're holding their cheek right now like, ow, that hurts, I don't like that, and we're going to have to see how they respond.
That was just a perfect shot. Xiaolon looking to be having the final game form that he had before. Realises though, continuing his lifelong form, another brilliant goal.
How can this be allowed? It's like 3 spectators in the stands right here, just like, wow, realise. Great shot, man. Yeah, we can't save it, by the way. It's 2-2, and it really was a great shot, and it was lovely, but unfortunately, we're allowed to watch it up here. The players on there on the field, you've got to try and do something about that.
Yeah, it's going to come down to Bumpy taking the game over towards Tokyo Verde. Great go underneath, though, from Burn. That subversion of expectations of where realised football was going to go completely caught him off guard.
Realised he's going to have to rush to that 50 as well. He was caught a little off guard by how close Burn was to that ball. And it's good from Bumpy that they are pushing up the field and closing this press, because it makes Tokyo Verde far less comfortable. You see these much earlier challenges further up the field give them so much more space to work with and less space to Tokyo. Taking away from your opponent to gain for yourself is double gains, and that shot nearly gained the lead back for the Tokyo Verde side, but realised for once it was off the mark.
Yeah, should have been on target really. It was the 2-man advantage on the final defender. Didn't actually nail it on target, however, so definitely a missed opportunity. But it's still going to be a close game to open up this incredible grand final series. Tokyo Verde gradually losing their lock on being the absolute favourites, I feel, because Bumpy, look at how close they're challenging in at this point.
I would like to recite your mystic ball from the past and say if it's tied in the final minute and it's late on, it favours Tokyo Verde. But right now, I mean, I do question that. There's a whole lot of offense coming out from Bumpy, but history could easily repeat itself. Both games 2 and 3 of our winners' final were a 3-2 win for Tokyo Verde. No overtime required.
I mean, what a pre-jump that ends up being from the defender of Bumpy. As Mario wants to get over one, does so. Here we do reach the final minute. We have got 30 seconds left.
Oh no!
It's by scoring the Mystic Meg crystal ball of your boy coming out good again.
It's ridiculous. He's just scooped across by Maru, and you can't keep Realize out from there, and history is continuing to repeat itself, but maybe it can in the sense that Bumpy can get a late equaliser and alter that course right now, but the time is so limited and they're going to be so winded with how painful it is to concede a goal like that, as Maru isn't going to double the lead. He's going to hit the post, and nearly Olpix will get that done, but Realize big clear to avoid him here into the final 10 seconds. It's another succulent pass from Maru, just picking out Realize. The shot wasn't direct enough though, and maybe we'll have a direct counter-attack. That's going to come off the backboard, but it's going to be put down. But for how long? The shot is direct. It's going to find the top shelf on 0 seconds from Burn.
How on earth has he secured that? That bounce is so fortuitous that Burn, it would be rude not to bang it in below the crossbar. The keeper having no chance of saving it. Overtime, just pulled from the jaws of victory of Tokyo Verde.
How is everything that we're saying ending up happening? I want a 11-minute overtime. Do you think that can happen?
Yeah, it has to now. Legally speaking, it has to.
I mean, it's 3-3, 6 goals in 5 minutes. You're asking for none in well, I'm asking for none in 11. Okay, I don't think I can push it that far. Surely that won't be the case. But Burn, that shot had to be a top shelf under pressure on 0 seconds, and yet they find it. If Tokyo end up losing this game from winning on 0 seconds, what a dent that could put in their egos.
Yeah, it's dent in the egos. It's also a dent in the perfect sweep of the entire day of the 3-0-3-0 green. And that's Ten Hao caught at the back. Good hit up from Olpix. Ten Hao into that back right corner. Realised the catch, but his touch has not been quite as critical and as clinical as we have seen from him previously. Chance of Burn, sends it on target. Realised what a save.
1 out of 11 is completed here as the overtime lives on 3-3, and Burn is up, and Burn has been dangerous, but he's not going to find the double touch there. Ten Hao has got space, but he's not got boost. In fact, he's given up possession relatively cheaply. Likewise, though, for their opponents, and it's topped in. The redirect in at the near post, so sneaky.
Did you specify 11 minutes, or did you say 11, and then therefore we can take it as seconds?
That was nearly 1 minute 11. That's just unfortunately Ten Hao. I mean, you just clearly had to shoot that one in fast. What a shot it was.
Yeah, fantastic. That vision, though, at the end, from, I think it was Realize who passed it, to then get the ball over to Ten Hao. The keeper had no idea that he was there. Sending it over to the side, by all assumptions, oh, Realize he missed another shot. Okay, and they've scored. Okay, Ten Hao was there instead. But Xiaolong, throughout that game, my word, did he look solid.
He's been looking solid for the past couple hours. What a performance he is putting in. You talk about depth in the Asian region, and it's right there for all to see. But talk about class as well from Tokyo Verde. We give them praise, but we have to praise the class and composure that they showed to concede a 0-second goal and go to overtime. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the momentum of your opposition, but to fire back, and to fire back so cleanly with a winner like that, really shows just how good they are.
I mean, the absolute credit of Bumpy Pumpy, they got 3 goals past Tokyo Verde. That's crazy. That's really good. That is the best that any other team has done today. Like, that was nearly another 3-2, ended up being the overtime. But getting 3 goals? That's huge. That is monumental.
I just maybe, they are getting a little bit haunted by the fact that they did lose 4-3 twice in the qualifiers for this closed qualifier. They did lose 4-3 twice. You know what? The second one, the end of the series, was 1 minute and 7 seconds. Now, tell me that isn't rather similar to how game 1 just went. And the question is, can they really do it again with touches like that? You question if it's going to, because it's a little sloppy on the defense. Maru, he'll reap the rewards.
Touch could have come in here from Xiaolong. He had time to do it, but it's just that flick. Burn's positioning also, the words I'm going to use is less than optimal, and I think I'm being generous.
I mean, you're just something not wrong. Definitely wasn't optimal. Suboptimal. Opposite of optimal is now getting a little bit more accurate, but it will be 1-0. The scoreline opened up by Tokyo Verde, but we've seen Bumpy Pumpy respond from down. This game and series is still very much on, and yet Tokyo Verde, their flawless record lives on. And Maru, do you want to talk about it?
That was less than optimal.
Yeah, I'll settle on that as well. It was. I wish we had like a dynamic pitch mutator for Rocket League, so that their entire crossbar would just be like a triangle now, following that shot, just completely bent up. As that one is not going to hit the crossbar. Ten Hao will double the lead, and Burn is unfortunate at fault again.
Yeah, ends up just being those final moments of each aggressive play from Tokyo Verde that they are absolutely excelling at, apart from Maru. Again, I'm not going to go into it too far. But Bumpy Pumpy, they just seem to panic. They're thinking, oh my god, right, if we let this go too far, suddenly Tokyo Verde will score. They're guaranteed to score. They're going to. And therefore, they worry a lot about it. I'd say that the worries are founded, ultimately. Look at that finishing. But you can't be panicked in the final third. That's where you need to be the most composed.
Yeah, you're spot on when it comes to the visualization. They're thinking and worrying so much about conceding that they're sort of thinking it into existence, and you need to sort of visualize yourself making the good play in the first place, or it will never come into reality. And that worry is evident to see here. After winning a clutch overtime, Tokyo Verdy have started to get inside the heads of Bumpy Pumpy, who, you know, have started to fall apart a little bit. They still have time in this game too, and game 2 is still very much on. But if they do not put themselves back together, it really is becoming like a Jenga stack right now.
Oh, dearie do. Not the best touch from Shaolong, and then Maru utterly bamboozling Burn. Ulpic wanted to get back to get the touch, but Tenhao just in position, can score it quite simply and quite easily. Less than half of the game gone. 4 goals past Bumpy Pumpy already. Not looking good for them. It's a scary, scary time.
I feel for Ulpix really though. He wanted to completely bail and go get the corner boost and just go on a holiday, but I don't know if you check the current climate and situation at the moment. It's pretty hard to go on holiday, and it's even more harder when your teammate is passing it to the mid and it's an uncontested shot onto the net you've just left open, and it's just, you know, even for Bumpy Pumpy standards, kind of sloppy compared to what we've seen, but that is what the pressure and nerve will bring out of you. No one's going to remember how well you played in free play or ranked. They understand and remember how you play in big series like this, under pressure that defines who represents an entire country. And right now, it is not going to be Bumpy Pumpy.
I mean, it's the country, it's in some cases the region for other places, and especially like the European ones. Oh, that's nearly a perfect shot. Burn, though, he doesn't want us to be talking about Europe. He wants us to fly all the way back to Japan, as that shot just about squeaks inside the top corner and hands itself straight back to the front of his beautiful Fennec.
I mean, not only does he beat Realize to the ball, he beats him cleanly enough that Realize doesn't get a block. He plucks out the top corner, and sure, it hit the post, but he follows it up, and you do not stop until the whistle blows. And we don't have a whistle in Rocket League, but you know exactly what I mean, and it certainly blew for that goal there. They are back within 3, and there is time to work with, but Tenhao is going to just rocket the ball into the ceiling. We have no idea what he was going for there. It has ended up following it up anyway and forcing the 50, and all these high-flying balls that spill across the pitch. Even if they're not dangerous for Tokyo Verdy, they are killing off the clock.
Yeah, I think that's basically what Tokyo Verdy are going for. Send it high. Just, you know, keep the ball out of the possession, because they're going to be winning the speed race as well. 9 times out of 10, you're going to back somebody from Tokyo Verdy to have had the read about half a second, maybe less, maybe 0.2 of a second before.
Pass.
Those passes in. I just realised get that shot so perfectly.
It's just so clinical. You watch it from a distance, you knew it was going to happen. Bumpy Pumpy probably knew it was going to happen as well, but that is just lovely textbook passing plays from Tokyo Verdy, who are sending a statement to the world that this cleanliness of play is certainly satisfactory. And even though I can't smell it, I reckon it would smell quite nice, don't you?
It's selfless. That is what Tokyo Verdy are. They are utterly selfless. They share in the glory, and they bask in the idea that they are the greatest players in Japan. And it is being shown time and time again. They took a second to grow into game number 1. They went to an overtime, Bumpy Pumpy putting forward an amazing offense. Even in this game, their offense looked great. The shot from Burn was beautiful. But it just comes down to the final precision and the final finishing touches, those micro positives that we can see from these teams. I realise his positioning there, 0 boost, and he still manages to burn off 3 or 4 seconds just with a clear. Brilliant stuff. Tokyo Verdy looking near unstoppable and hoping to get their 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 victory here today in Japan.
They can testament half this Game 2 win to that Game 5 overtime win. The impact it has had on Bumpy Pumpy is huge. Did you say Brazil, or did you say B with a Brazil on the end? I don't know, there's 4 seconds. It's pretty difficult. I mean, they got the 7-0 win after Game 1 against Zayfit. Sorry, I'm completely spilling over my words here. I'm still really thinking about the possibility of like incense burners labeled Tokyo Verdy team plays and thinking about what they smell like. As that is painfully close. I'm going to go with something like Rosemary and Cherry Blossom, right? Because it is certainly sweet watching Tokyo Verde right now play and link up together as a team, but I just want another game like Game 1. You feel like Bumpy Pumpy after all their day and all they've tried. I've sort of been cheated out of winning a single game here.
Yeah, I feel like also Rosemary and Cherry Blossom was quite good, quite herbal, but also quite sweet. I could smell that. I could like that in my house and make sure that it smells delicious. Tokyo Verde on the verge of yet another sweep. Bumpy Pumpy in Game 1 looked really fantastic, utterly phenomenal. They really did. That's the best I think we've seen them play, and yet they still lost. It's such a shame. But Tokyo Verde, is this last game going to be anything more than a formality and a statement at what Japan and what Tokyo Verde bring to the world?
I'm not sure, it depends. There's no early goal for Tokyo Verde, but they've left the crossbar rattling here 10 seconds in. Bumpy Bumpy, clean sheet intact, but for how long? It's huge that they weather that early storm there. Sorry that we've had to come in so hot into this final game, but this could be the final game of this closed qualifier, and maybe there was a goal at the other end, but Maru here in this end-to-end game is going to keep the clean sheet on the other side too.
Olpix has to just keep control of that. Good rotation back round from Shaolong. Destroys 10 now, removes him from the pitch to alleviate a lot of that pressure on Olpix too. Very, very well played and good possession play of Bumpy Pumpy. Good challenge comes in. Realize tries to find Maru again. Very annoyed that Realize has stolen that mid boost from him, so bumped him trying away from that play. Burn is the man that I think can change everything in this game. His shooting, I think, in the last game was the best out of the team. Shaolong a little bit earlier on had the best shooting, but it's also going to come down to how well they link together. A lot of double commits have been rearing their ugly head at the moment.
The thing is what are we going to remember Burn's game for here in Game 3? Will it be the nice aggression in midfield of Game 1 and the demolitions that open up space? Or will it be the defensive faults that we saw in Game 2? His performance has really defined how well this Bumpy Pumpy team has played. Olpix, very consistent. Shaolong, an addiction to scoring. In fact, someone help him out. He needs some medication with how many goals he has scored today, but he's going to need to find some even more out of the bag. You see the space given up. Tenhao will give no respect, and he will challenge that, but Shaolong just muscles his way through too. In fact, he's a bodybuilder now here. He's don't know what else he's been taking for muscles like that as he's sending it. No, not on target. It's 3 minutes still on the clock. We are still goalless, but for how long? Realize has sent it to the backboard. I don't think he knew it was open.
No, that was I was ready to say congratulations, first goal Tokyo Verde, but yeah, that was just completely open. Realised just having a brief lapse of concentration perhaps, or one of his teammates misseeing and miscalling something. Regardless though, Bumpy Pumpy get away with an absolute gift to get past halfway in this game, but Maru, as the bumps come in and Tenhao gets going, Tokyo Verde secured their first.
Talk about a gift here. Olpix just wanted to make his clear, but he got bumped by Tenhao in the process, and he's the one who ends up giving the gift to Maru. And I don't know about you, but last time I checked, it is not Christmas anytime soon, but it will be 1-0 to Tokyo Verde, and there's not going to be an immediate response off the kickoff as well. Bumpy Pumpy, this is their last chance to bounce back.
Gonna need to do it as soon as is humanly possible. Tenhao bumped into that and still gets a great clear, but the miss! No, Olpix! You can't miss on that sidewall. Just such simple touches. Cannot be going amiss right now. As we approach 2 minutes left in this game, Tokyo Verde are only going to seek to increase the pressure that they have put on.
Let's not forget how dangerous that they've been on the counter, but if they never get the counter to start with, then they're never going to get the opportunity that ends up materialising. You see Burn there right against the back wall, had to make that first save. He might have to make another here, but Olpix has cut it out early, which is nice, but realise he's looking for the flip reset. He's got no more boost to his name now, with a player straight in the way. Couldn't force that one through, but Tokyo Verde, they're still trying to do just that.
I'm just pleading with Realize, don't do it to them. Score another brilliant passing play. Score just some other goal rather than a zero boost pre-flip reset to give your guys the second goal. You can't do it. That's just too cruel. But now
nice winning goal though.
Yeah, lovely Thailand. I know it would have been lovely. It would have been cruel and mean. And it wouldn't have felt nice. Hey, there's a minute left. Bumpy Pumpy, something has to materialise soon, otherwise, hello Tokyo Verdy to your regional finals.
Really are still under the cosh, are Bumpy Pumpy. They couldn't find boost anywhere, but they can find an important win on the board as it's sent hopefully off the backboard, but the backboard it will return to. No shot on target, and Shaolon used all of his boost for the ball that he didn't end up reaching. He's had to bail all the way back, and when you're in the last minute and you need a goal, you never want to be bailing all that way back. But how can he use that boost? It turns out he can't use it at all. He's just been slapped into the back of the Tokyo Verdy net, and that 50 slap all the way downfield here. Still time beginning to run out here. Burn, he's going to be from the backboard, but the boost, he runs out of it. Always they've got max 30. Shaolon has some here. Maybe he can get a second touch, but realise he's up so fast.
Time and time again, whenever Bumpy Pumpy have tried to establish a play, realised Maru, and you cannot forget Tenau with how well he has played, and realise has been the man of the hour. They have just come back every time. They've shut down Bumpy Pumpy. It has been an impossible hurdle to cross. And yet, Tokyo Verdy have done it. They go 9-0 in their games today, and they will be joining both Singaporean teams, Malaysia, as one of our incredible teams in the Asia Mainland Regional Finals.
It's a $45,000 prize pool, and who's to say that they won't take the lion's share of the cake there? What a day from Tokyo Verdy. What a close qualifier for Japan, and the desk will break it down after this.
Tap to pay with Visa. It's that fast. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Welcome back. It's time to wrap up the Japan closed qualifier for the Intel World Open with myself, Iralik, and him, Digital Bacon. First, I'm going to give much love, by the way, to our casting duo today. Never would have thought I'd see Tylacto and Stumpy together, but what an entertaining combo! And talking of entertainment, well, Tokyo Verde simply came here to entertain. That is the third time, Bacon, in 3 weeks that they have 3-0'd Bumpy Pumpy.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Normally, Cole and Stumpy are tied at the hip, and I mean, realize and success. Now, that is tied at the hip as well. Mr. Japan himself. Whilst, yes, now, Maru and Tenhao are going to be on everyone's minds, realize once again, showing up and showing success. Well, I mean, for us anyway, Maru turned up in that last series and made his name known. It was a little bit quieter during the first 2 series of the day, but it wasn't really needed. But for us, and for my money definitely, Tenhao is the MVP of the day.
I think that's the greatest compliment we can give to Tokyo Verde, is everyone is hyping up Realize, and he did turn up, he did have an amazing goal and amazing players and whatever, that's what Realize does. But, like you rightly say, that first time around against Bumpy Pumpy, Tenhao was the star. This time around, Maru was the star, entering the Maru arc, so to speak, of Tokyo Verde. And look at that there. You cannot get more clean a closed qualifier than that. I called them a laundry service earlier, and it sounds very much to me like we're both in agreement. I think they might be heading to clean up the regional as well. Just looking, I mean, especially in that 1-0 series, or in that 1-0 game, I should say, rather. Just looking so within themselves, so comfortable. It's almost like they could have flexed if they wanted to. They didn't have to.
And that's the interesting part, right? Because Maru has been playing on NIMP 55 for the last, as long as I can remember, the last few months, definitely. And now coming on to join this squad purely for the Intel World Open, it's just crazy that chemistry is instantly there. Yeah. This is the strongest team we've seen, and ever coming out from Japan. I mean, straight up, we were saying earlier, like, I could see him slot into OCE and be a top 10, perhaps even top 8 team right over there. But the thing is, for me, coming again, like I said, from the history, back to APL Season 1, all the way back September 2017, where we first got a cast over this region, alongside Bizer, shout out to him, of course, and Koken, like we said, on the Japanese side of things. But it's just crazy to see how this region has developed on its own, completely naturally, and how, like we said earlier, with the players pulling each other up, not even on Asian servers, mind you, on US West, because that's where they get the best competition in ranked and such, to be able to keep that going. And it's just so wholesome to see that the grind is paying off for these guys.
And of course, what that means for us here at the Intel World Open is that we have our roster for the Asian mainland regional locked in. Tokyo Verde, 3 rats, Unts, and Ooga Booga. It is going to be a mighty fine time in 2 weeks, I can tell you that for sure. But coming up later today, we have 2 more exciting regions, and one that is certainly very close to home for us too, the UK and Mexico, coming up later today. So be sure to tune in for that. He's been Digital Bacon, I've been Ira Leak, and we'll see you very soon.
なでなな